I have quite a lot that I wanted to talk about. A lot of this is for me, if anything, because I get a lot of questions and actually like a lot of DMs about all sorts of different questions about marketing and social media. So I wanted to get that all out of the way and then upload things to YouTube. And I want to see how that goes as we go. I am going to talk about a little bit about myself right now. So, my name is Tessa, and I have been doing VTuber management for 3 years now since fall 2020. And I have been making content for much longer than that. Um, I got my start with conventions actually back when I was in high school in 2012. And I would talk about stuff like card games, anime, mostly anime, at different conventions. And I got really used to that. And I started cultivating an audience that way. And it was quite a doozy. I found myself really focusing hard on just reviewing anime and watching a lot of anime, all the new stuff that was always coming out. And people just wanted to listen to my opinions. They thought I had a good opinion, and I kind of went from there. And I quickly grew my. It was back on Facebook, actually. I really. It was such a really good time back then. And Facebook is. It was quite the wasteland. Hello, Odyssey. And I found myself making my own podcast at the time. I called it Weeb Speak, and it was a lot of fun. And then I made a lot of episodes out of that and talked to a lot of guests who are AniTubers and different people from the anime industry, from different conventions and all that. And so, right, yeah, back when we liked Facebook, 2014 was a very different era for social media. So we very much found our, like me and my co-host at the time, we were really enjoying ourselves then. Well, that kind of came to an end. I you know, I was quite depressed at that time, and I find myself now going to VTubing. um I went to VTubing like around 2020, but before that I had like a period of discovery. I like fucking discovered I was trans, and I started actually working on myself with my mental health for the first time, and anxiety disorder, cuz that was the actual thing that actually got me to wake up and actually start like looking at things. It was like really bad. I fell to the ground during an exam in college because I had such a bad a panic attack that I thought it was a fucking heart attack. But, everything turned out fine. I did a lot of therapy, discovered myself more, discovered I was fucking trans in the process, and worked on myself really rigorously and turned my grades around, and I got really good at marketing. In the meantime, because of my studies and also applying them during an internship and continuing what I was doing for a little bit. And then I just kind of stopped for a while because I was focusing on school and focusing on trying to get a job. So there was quite a lot of turmoil during all that time. And I was really depressed because I couldn't get a job. COVID just kind of shut everything down. I was actually going to be a teacher. And I really do like teaching people. And that's kind of what I do now. I teach VTubers all the time. And I couldn't get into grad school because the fellowship that I was going to have as a free ride ran out because of COVID. It kind of was, you know. Oh, yes, thank you very much. This PNG model is made by Iris Demon. Damon. I will be linking things, and that is actually going to be really nice to get Iris a little more attention. They're very underrated as an artist. Hello, hello. It's okay if you're lurky. It's okay if you're not even here. It's all going to be on a VOD on YouTube anyways. The first 3 minutes are kind of awkward because I'm just seeing if there's any scuff. And I am very happy to be here. So I discovered VTubers in 2020, then just kind of volunteered myself, and I just kind of fell in love because one of my dreams was always making an anime. And so I kind of found VTubers naturally to be like, oh, this is anime. If I help, I'm making anime. It was really simple. Why make anime when you can be anime? Exactly. See, now you're getting it. And I started volunteering my services around and managing different people, consulting people for cheap. And then eventually I started taking it a lot more seriously last year. And now we're here. I have managed quite a lot of people, consulted hundreds, and I have been really happy with myself, and making a living doing this is really fun. And so one of the things that has actually been this is okay. We got a little bit of scuff, but that is okay. So I know there's a lot of glowing and growing, and I'm always growing, I'm always learning. So one of the things that I find myself doing now is I take my breaks, and that wasn't always the case. I had a lot of realization that maybe work-life balance is actually a good thing, and maybe I do need days off. Just because you love a job doesn't mean you need to indulge yourself 24/7 in it. And so one of the things that I set out to do today is I'm planning on answering a bunch of frequently asked questions that I have had for the past 3 years, but also in the past week because of TwitchCon. We've had some pretty big announcements, and some announcements are bigger than others, and the elephant in the room is actually multi-streaming. And so, now give me a second. I have a standing desk and I feel like standing. There we go. And yes, this is my PNG model. Hello, yes. I am Odyssey's manager. Stretch noise? That is a thing people do enjoy about me is I'm a little squeaky toy. So the first thing I wanted to talk about was multi-streaming. That's on everyone's mind, and everyone wants to know what the fuck to do. And it's kind of a confusing time. I understand. It's like, whoa, that's not exactly what I wanted to see. Now that I have all these possibilities, I'm now fucking paralyzed. I don't know what to do. Tessa, help, please. And well, that's exactly what we're going to talk about today. So there's a lot to consider when it comes to multi-streaming. Thank you for the subscription. We're going to consider a lot about who you are, typically. I mean, when people hire me for a consultation or management, I'm really personalizing a bunch of stuff. Also, I'm going to take a little bit of hydration. I got water up my nose. You see, I have a whole gallon of water, and then I just kind of rushed it, and then I got water in my nose. I am real It's okay. It's dash okay. So, where was I? I was talking about what I do for people. So, like, you buy a consultation, you buy management, I personalize a strategy for you. But when I've thought about this for some time. Um, when I'm streaming, it's all going to be generalized. And there's no way I could personalize it if I'm not directing it at a single person. And so one of the things I have to do is I have to generalize just a little bit. It's, one of my favorite things to do is explain a lot of things. And, well, I'm going to have to go for that. So just as a heads up. So multi-streaming, it really depends on here's the short and sweet answer. It depends what you want to do, but for the most part, most people are going to find a lot of usage streaming to YouTube, but you need to curtail your expectations so that you're not going to be like multi-streaming to YouTube and expecting people to show up. Because for some reason with YouTube, it doesn't fucking work like that. It's quite upsetting, if I'm going to be honest. So one of the things that I have to talk about with YouTube in particular is how it works in the beginning, in the first place. So with YouTube, it works by categorizing people into boxes, essentially. It assigns tags to a certain person with their interests. And from the user perspective, it bases itself off of your watch history and your viewing behaviors. So, for example, if I were to open up my YouTube channel, I would see a lot of bushcraft videos and vlogs because that's all I've been consuming lately on my days off. I would be watching these things for hours and hours and hours on end. And so one of the things that I have to keep in mind is that if I wanted to fix that, I just simply have to do one of two things. I have to go into my watch history, delete stuff, and I would still have to watch more stuff to curate my feed, my homepage. The same works on basically any social media. The basis of social media is based on personalization. It's based on what you do on their services. And so they're trying to understand their goals. They're trying to get you to stay on their platforms. Every time we talk about social media, always have in mind they want people to stay as long as possible, see as many ads as possible, because the service is not the service. You are the product. You will always be the product, and the main customers are the advertisers. We just so happen to be the lab rats that collect data for the company to give to advertisers to target advertisements towards us. And so for creators, we sort of exist in like a secondhand market ecosystem of sorts where we are organically driving traffic because we provide value to people. It's kind of like the big business versus small business situation where you have to, small family business situation where you have to provide value and just get word of mouth for the most part. You can do all sorts of different things, and that is exactly what I specialize in, is, all the nitty gritty of marketing. But at the end of the day, one of the big things is you have to understand your audience. You have to understand what it is you want to do, but also actually doing the thing. And so with multi-streaming and YouTube, you need to upload things. That's how YouTube gathers data from the creator end of things. You have to provide YouTube data to begin with to start categorizing you. You can do that by streaming, but it's not exactly tailored in the same way that regular uploads are. Consider YouTube Live to still be in beta, despite it being out for like 5+ years. I think it's been out for like 8 years now. It's been out for a hot minute, and they still have a lot of kinks to work out. One of the most important things is discovery. You're not going to get a lot of discovery just by hitting go live. It's just not going to happen. There are people much smarter than me, like Epsis Vox, who gives tutorials on that and on like how to multi-stream. And one of the there's two main ways of doing it. There's different services for it now, but the two main things that you do it with is by doing a direct instance through OBS. You just have one OBS instance for Twitch, one instance for YouTube. Pros, it will get you the highest like bitrate and quality, video quality. But downside is it's really intensive on whatever computer you're doing. So if you're like me and you're streaming off of laptops, I have 2 laptops connected right now, and I'm not even using one of them. I'm using one laptop. And I had to really reduce things, and little did I know PNG Tuber Plus is actually quite intensive. It has the same exact CPU and RAM usage as VTube Studio. But it does look fucking great! But one of the things that I have to keep in mind is that, for me, this is just an aesthetic at the end of the day that I wanted to go with. And I want to talk about that later. But one of the things I want to continue on is YouTube a little bit. So you really need to figure out what it is you want to do and just do it. And keep doing it. Improve as you go. But if you want to live stream, expect to only have it as like a VOD hub, you know. For me personally, the reason why I'm not multi-streaming right now, because I'm sure there's y'all are wondering why I'm not exactly multi-streaming to YouTube right now, is because for me, number one, I didn't want to go through the hassle of going through Restream, and 2, I don't have enough beefiness for the multi-instance solution. But also, I wanted to cut down the VOD anyways and upload it. And so I'm making like an educational channel. I'm going to use myself as an example. The automatic VOD repository is a nice benefit, yes. And if your expectation is purely that, you're done. You don't need any more of this conversation. That's all it's really needed to do. Now, for me, I'm making an educational channel. I'm going to be making playlists for different topics. I'm going to be teaching about marketing, economics. I'm going to be talking about social media, all sorts of other different topics. I'm going to need to upload things to do that. And so for me, I'm doing what I call a content production pipeline. And you see, with the content production pipeline, I'm streaming on Twitch first, then I'm going to download the VOD, then I'm going to cut up the VOD, and then I'm going to upload those individual videos one at a time. And then I'm going to just compile them back in together, because nowadays YouTube audiences want to see longer videos. They're okay with seeing longer videos because I believe that there is a backlash to TikTok style content because it's everywhere. Like entire websites are reorganizing themselves to cater to that type of content. And a lot of people, there is a psychological concept, I forget the name of it, where if you try to force someone to do something, they will try everything in their power to not do the thing. And so you kind of have that situation going on. And so that's why you see 2006 era style YouTube videos reaching like 3 million views right now, and they're not even doing much on their thumbnail, and they're just going like, hey, I've been watching a lot of bushcraft videos and vlogs because it's like, hey, I'm going to go to the woods with a minimalist kit of like 10 tools in a little sack, and I'm going to survive for 100 days. See you later. Here's my progress. and they're just uploading videos, and I'm just sitting here like, huh, that's actually really fucking cool. It brings me back to the old days of YouTube, and I'm like, oh, this is beginner friendly as hell. And I want to like emphasize that, like, this is just such a really cool era of doing things. No, I'm not talking about the guy that builds the hut. Like, if you literally search bushcraft in the search bar on YouTube and like bushcraft tutorial, I'm just watching a whole lot of people. But I'm also watching a channel called Townsend's, where they specialize in history, but specifically like 18th, 17th, and 18th century America, England, etc. It's a cooking history channel. It's very specific. And so for a lot of other people who are like musicians, like Odyssey, for example, having multiple channels is the thing that makes sense. Odyssey, there seems to be appeal in an earnest delivery, visibly not aiming for dopamine spikes. Yeah, and this is what we're calling authenticity, and that's going to bridge the next thing after I wrap up multi-streaming. I want to return back to YouTube, but I want to wrap up multi-streaming because it really depends on what your goals are, because there are some people out there, you know, especially mid-sized streamers, quote unquote, and those are people that are like 150 CCV plus, but also people who can speak Chinese or Japanese. You can multi-stream to Bilibili. That's not a bad idea. But also, if you're English only, you could multi-stream to Bilibili. But the big thing is you need to express an interest in Southeast Asian cultures. You at least need to try to like show that interest visibly, consistently, and they will respond quite well. Again, it's about your audiences. It's about understanding who they are. And so with Bilibili, if you're at least trying to make an earnest effort towards like learning more about Chinese, especially like Chinese culture and language, if you're trying to learn more about Japanese culture and language every now and then, multi-stream to Bilibili as one of your options. You're going to gather an audience, but key thing is no matter what platform you choose, you need to be consistent. Culture is fascinating, yeah, and you should have an open mind to it, but you also have to genuinely have that interest. People have really good bullshit detectors, so you really have to make sure that you are keeping your cool and not trying to fake it. People are going to... Yeah, you need to be sensitive to socio-political issues. So just mind what you say, because even if you have an accident, you can get canceled pretty badly and harassed, and kind of like Coco/Kason did. But, you know, there's a lot of opportunity there. There's a lot of really interesting people that you can add into your community, and it's just another avenue. But if we're talking with something like Kick, I can officially say at this point, I would not recommend Kick. Sure, there is an audience there, but they're not going to be a very great audience, because it's mostly a bunch of chuds for the most part, but also a lot of insensitive people in general who are very ignorant about a lot of social issues. So it could be a complete community mismatch for most VTubers. But for other creators in general, because I also can work with non-VTuber creators, the flesh tubers, you could find some home in Kick, but its net reputation is just not worth the risk. If it's known for anything, it's known for two things. Number one, it's known for assholes like Aiden Ross. But number two, it's known, well, Aiden Ross and the lack of enforcement of TOS and respect for those basic standards. And number two, it doesn't exactly have a strong brand identity. And Kick's entire identity is fuck Twitch. We provide a higher subcut. Cool. What about the actual service itself? For the most part, they don't exactly provide much for people to give a shit about. And so growing on there, there is an existing audience on there, but you need to consider your existing audiences and growing from then on. It's probably not worth your time. There are other platforms out there to multi-stream to, like you can still multi-stream to like TikTok, but for the most part, you're not going to get a whole lot of engagement unless you somehow figure out to format yourself in a 9:16 format. And really, like, you're going to do better doing NPC streaming. Let's just say that. So TikTok specific streams are going to find itself doing a lot better. And you can make a lot of money that way. Ice cream so good. Like a cowgirl. So there is... You can raise a lot of money that way, and I see people at most doing it completely ironically, and you know, the only serious option it seems is YouTube. But there's also another big question is VStream. For those who don't know, VStream is a VTuber oriented service, though they do have a roadmap for growth and adding in features. I would personally say, for the most part, you have to bring your own audience to VStream, for the most part. So what I would say is, with any kind of possible discoverability that would happen, I would find great value if you orient yourself to servicing VTubers and you have like a business going on, like kind of like I do, but if you're an artist as well, multi-streaming to VStream is not a bad idea because most of the audience there are VTubers. Most of their fans are staying on Discord or just Twitch or YouTube. Most people are also like not on Twitter anymore as well, though for a lot of us, staying on Twitter is kind of not a choice. There are plenty of good people on Twitter still. It's still worth doing. But where main audiences are is just Discord, Twitch, and YouTube. So if you want to get discovered by more VTubers, VStream is a good idea. Now, why am I not streaming to VStream right now? Well, I forgot. That's really all that there is to it. I forgot. I'm going to answer some questions before going to the next segment. If anyone has any questions, please ask away. There's no shame in it, and I will get to it when I can. Very happily. Yeah, Shinen Toshiaki VT. Wait, people actually liked Facebook. Yeah, they did. Facebook kind of was where a big market was back in the day for the anime community. It still is a place where people organize events. They still have their groups to talk about anime together. It's definitely always been more of a normie platform. But back then, up until 2016, I want to say, things really, I would say about 2017, because the 2016 election, I'm not going to get into it, but the 2016 election and Cambridge Analytica really, really changed all of social media, but Facebook just went so off the deep end that it started becoming unusable, despite the fact that organic reach was already dying really quick because Facebook wanted people to spend more ads. And businesses do spend a lot of money on ads. It's about second place to Google ads. But Facebook ads are a really big thing. They're a big market. And people do respond to them. So it's a very natural thing for businesses. These days, no one's on Facebook. Do not multi-stream to Facebook. Also, thank you everyone for complimenting the model. I am going to give a shout out to Iris. So one of the things while I'm looking for that, I'm gonna just talk a little bit more about social media in general. Like for Twitter, if you are going out of your way to post there a lot, I personally would not suggest it unless you are putting up videos of yourself talking about your day and stuff. It's okay to kind of treat things more or less as normal, but do switch it up a little bit. But I wouldn't spend too much emotional energy there. It definitely is not worth your time in that regard. A lot of people, one of the frequently asked questions I do have actually is, how the hell do I use Twitter? And ever since Elon Musk took over, they have completely ruined the app in the matter of a year. There's still no real good Twitter alternative. So being able to actually make use of things is not exactly an easy time. I wish there was an easier way to work around this, but there just isn't. Multi-streaming is different on different social media sites. Yes, it is. Different social media sites will have different standards, and you're definitely going to want to double check what your bitrate is going to be like. So always check what their recommendations are. But also, yes, in terms of like the culture of things, different social media sites have different ways to grow. And so it's really important to keep in mind that every social media site is different, requires its own strategy. But for the most part, if you're just providing good content, that is a good Northern Light. Let's see. I'm very curious. Lamp Devil says, I'm very curious about this from a VTuber perspective. Most should you YouTube stuff comes from non-VTuber creators, and I feel like there are different factors that play in VTubing maybe. Lamp Devil, I'm probably going to need you to clarify that one a little bit more. Is that why YouTube doesn't tell the streamer I want to watch is live from Glitch Symphony? So it's weird, but I think the more people, okay, so like there's channels that do focus on streaming, right? And the more of those channels that you follow or subscribe to, the more that sends signals to YouTube to actually give you those kind of notifications. And so it wasn't until I started actually subscribing to like 5 or more people who actually live stream because they're clients of mine. I also subscribe to people from HoloLive that have got my interest in VTubing in the first place, like Korone and Sakura. There's a lot of people that do stream to YouTube, and so if you do that, when someone goes live, you can get the notification. But for the most part, it's very limited in exposure, even on the front page. Getting your front page exposure, you've got maybe like 2 to 3 slots on the front page to actually be featured and suggested from browse features. It's kind of a rough time, and right now it's, again, like I said, it's like in a beta program kind of deal, and I wish that they would improve it quicker. I remember there were rumors about how January 2023 they were actually working and improving on things, but that didn't actually, that didn't exactly happen. But, there are options for how you can move on with that. Reading. Glitch Symphony. Wait, you can put videos on Bird site. Yes, you can put videos on the Bird site. I would recommend them to be in a 1x1 format. And make sure they're less than a minute long. If it's something like a lore video, that's a bit of a different story, especially if you are working on a whole ass social media strategy for that in the first place. You can have like a minute and a half, maybe 2 minutes, but I try to aim for shorter and sweeter to get to the point, and then fully feature the thing on like YouTube and Twitch. What about Instagram or some form of Mastodon? Again, like Mastodon kind of lost its relevancy. There was a big hype for it, and there is small amounts of growing interest in it, but there's not enough activity on there. People just kind of check it, talk a little bit, leave. It's not exactly stable enough, if you know what I mean. Reading. What's a 1x1 format? It's just a complete square. So if you see this landscape format of what I have right now, this would be 16:9. It's a ratio of dimensions. So 1x1 is something like 500x500, or in this case, 1080x1080. You might want to upscale a little bit to like 1440. Or just 1080 is going to work. Correct, Odyssey. Blue Sky is better, but one of the problems is just like Mastodon, it's not exactly populated quite yet. And I'm not exactly sure what the fuck they're doing, what their roadmap is. There's no real communication about that. Yeah, getting noticed on social media is rough, but like you have to do something. You have to put yourself out there. And if you do provide that value, everything else kind of follows. And the how you do it is often why people come to me. But just getting started in the first place is always the best step. Yeah, I would agree that Blue Sky is a good place to just kind of shit post and just be yourself. There's not a lot of judgment there, and it seems like a chill environment, but I don't exactly. I try to spend as little time on social media as possible. That's why, even though I have a Blue Sky account, I don't even have a profile picture set on it. I just don't want to spend the time on there if I don't have to. Like, I take social media detoxes at least once a week if I can help it, to the best I can. Like, if I opened up my iPhone and looked at the average time that I spend on like Twitter, it's like 30 minutes a week. I don't spend a lot of time on Twitter if I don't have to. Same thing on desktop. So between desktop and Twitter and mobile, I'll spend about an hour of time on Twitter a week. I don't really try to browse around or stay on there. Maybe that's just because I'm jaded as a social media manager and it's my job. But, like, there's just a lot of things to beat you down, and I'm not exactly wanting to be at work 24/7. Maybe that's just me, but also I do enjoy doing other things when I can. Okay, it sounds simple, but finding a niche is useful. For example, one of my handles is now for medical knowledge and discussion, whereas another one is just me being a nerd and stuff I'm a fan of. That's actually a really interesting way forward. If you're sharing your medical knowledge, if you're an expert, there's plenty of people that don't know how to do CPR. There's plenty of, you can just start with the basics, and then work your way towards more advanced stuff if you want to share that stuff. Like, hey, here's how to be truly hygienic. Here's how you actually wash your hands, and here's why you need to wash your hands this way. Get under the nails. How to do CPR, how to actually apply a first aid kit. A lot of people don't know those skills. They're just not taught in schools anymore. And there's a lot of room for that and a lot of demand for that, because there's entire like YouTube channels where I'm trying to remember the name of the channel, but it was like an entire channel dedicated to fathers giving advice, judgment-free advice, and showing you actually how to do handy stuff, like how to use a power tool, how to sand down wood. And it's just like these dads being real chill about it. It's extremely wholesome. And there's like a version for moms too, like how to sew from a judgment-free mother. And it kind of itches a really big itch for people. And I personally would love to see more of that from VTubers. Question, is there a reason to not multi-stream Twitch and YouTube by default, or not by default without a plan anyway? I and many others haven't built up a YouTube, or it was primarily meant for either edited videos or archives, but not both. How does multi-streaming affect the algorithm's definition of the channel if it starts live streaming on top of existing videos? So I don't want to get too in the nitty-gritty because I would start to lose some of you in the data jargon, but one of the things that you need to make sure of is just having something there in general is better than having nothing at all. And moving forward, for even myself, I'm taking that advice now. I have finally made the time to do it. This has been a long time coming, but I just didn't have the time for myself to actually do the content because I was busy doing my job as a manager and producer. And managing projects and debuts, they take a lot of time. And I had a lot of sales, a lot of people to help. And now I'm able to manage my time a little bit better. I've gotten to that point in my life where things are more stable and comfortable. So if you're uploading something, and why I say you need to manage your expectations, it's a good thing to do expectation management in general, but I already explained a little bit that there are categorization things going on with how you feed data to YouTube. And by live streaming, if no one is actually responding, it's not getting very many interactions. It's not getting many watch time hours. That's what it's called. It's a metric called watch time hours. And it does give signals to YouTube about, hey, this is exactly what's going on. And I believe they have AI that scans your video and is able to discern what you're doing. And so it will categorize you as a VTuber if you're using VTuber, like a model like this. If you're playing games, it's going to categorize you as with gaming. If you're reacting to videos, it's going to or you're making a vlog, it's going to put you under lifestyle and blogs. You know, it has all these different signals, and you can technically categorize yourself with that, but the discovery is going to be a drip from the tap. You're not even getting a full thing. You're just getting little droplets at a time. Drip, drip. And it's just not going to really get out there. That's why if you upload videos and you improve your process and you look at like the retention curve in YouTube Studio, and you actually see where people are clicking off, you start to analyze your video a little bit, you start to improve the production quality of your video, or at least improve the pacing, then you will get better responses. If you change the thumbnail and title, experiment aggressively with that, you will get better responses. And so there's all sorts of different things you can change here and there. Okay, so I hope that answers a little bit of the question, and I will look at a little more questions, then I'll move on. Thread seems okay. Spoutable is okay. I don't even know what spoutable is. Would it be worth to multi-stream to Fansly? Ooh, that is a good question. If you're consistent on Fansly, you're a sex worker, and because there's different ways of doing it, like you can do the VR chat way of doing things, you can actually do IRL stuff on it. But either way, or you're just uploading images to it, but if you're actually like streaming to Fansly, absolutely, yeah. Go ahead and, no, actually, that's a really good question. If you are doing just normal content on Fansly, Yes, I suppose you can, especially if your content's already kind of spicy as it is. Um, I suppose you could, but I don't know exactly how that will fare on Fansly. Because people are there, for porn, but it's not necessarily the case. There are normal streams on Fansly, but like, I suppose you could. I would like to hear more about people who stream to Fansly. I don't exactly have too much access to data from Fansly to actually make a good decision as to whether or not that's a good idea. But from what I do know about Fansly, you don't exactly get the best analytics that I could, look at. But like, if people are responding to it, yeah, I would say go for it. But just be sure not to break the TOS of the other platforms. So like if you're streaming to Twitch and you're multi-streaming to Fansly, make sure that it is PG-13 or rated R at best, not rated X. From Firozera. Tessa, I feel like it's harder than ever to just reach quote unquote normal viewers. I primarily use Bird app to connect to other VTubers now, and I find they tend to be at least half of my viewers, as well as how best can I reach those quote unquote normal viewers who aren't streamers themselves. Now that's always interesting. And so switching your demographics is really difficult, and so there's different strategies typically to do that, and you could play some. There's certain criteria that comes into this. So I don't want to encourage trend chasing because that is negatively looked upon. But if you do see some popular up and coming games that you yourself also are actually going to enjoy, like you've play tested it, you actually know you're going to enjoy the hell out of it genuinely, authentically, then yeah, you should give it a try. And through that normal discoverability on Twitch, even though Twitch discoverability is bad, I've came to learn that it's something that is possible to work with. You fix up your tags, see what other people are doing with tags, implement them to yourself if it makes sense. Again, we don't want to be clickbaity with tags. We want to actually be descriptive with tags. Like for myself, I'm in just chatting. That's the number one category, and I'm sure that I'm going to get a lot of discoverability from this, especially with my focus. I have something that is quite interesting to people, and I am literally just chatting, so I am as I advertise. My tags would be VTuber, anime, lesbian, English, chatty, comfy, ask me anything, Latino, mom, educational. All of those are one-to-one with who I am. I'm being quite authentic to it, and those are tags that I know that people actually search with. You would be surprised at people, regular users of Twitch, they actually utilize some of these functions. And I'm talking about like the thousands, tens of thousands. People use these functions. So you might as well put a little bit of effort into it and actually be one-to-one and authentic. So, of course, that advice kind of gets variable over time. The bigger you are, it starts to matter a little bit less. But you need having those people show up to your stream. The big thing that also helps is you probably already have traction. You probably already have traffic that does come to you. But probably one of the things that is hurting you is retention. If you aren't able to retain that traffic, then you're going to naturally send signals to websites that aren't going to continue giving that traffic and try to give it to someone else. Unfortunately, we have a zero-sum game going on with streaming. Being a creator is really difficult. It's not for everyone, but one thing I will say is that there is a lot of competition. And so a lot of what I do talk about often is niching down and trying to like dig deep into your own interests, your passions, and actually showcasing that. And so if you have different venues, that could be a different way of another strategy that does help. So like if you have a specific strategy for TikTok, you can then cross post it to YouTube Shorts. You can cross post it to Instagram. And the rule for that typically will be if it doesn't work on one platform, it could work on another. But if it doesn't work on any, we need to go to the drawing board, see what's going on, maybe change our tags that we're doing on those, maybe change the actual content itself, change our approach, change the production. There's all sorts of different questions that happen, but a lot of it does rely on us as creators. It's easy to blame audiences, but they do have their interests. And so, again, I like to harp on this, but you do have to provide value. And so if you are just, if your actual interest is just being a VTuber, turning on VTubing, putting on a game, we need to look at, okay, if we're also adding in a little bit of comedy, are we interesting? Are we entertaining? Are we informative about something? If we're giving our opinions to something, maybe we can highlight that. Maybe we can showcase different moments that are happening here and there. You post videos to the Bird app. You post videos to Instagram, Reels, TikTok, blah, blah, blah. That's a lot of work, I know. But I do work with a lot of people on these things. And with enough consistency, that's the big thing, is consistency. If you just keep doing it and you keep improving it and you work smarter, not harder, then I actually genuinely believe 9 times out of 10, you're actually going to find some people who value what you do. You have to put yourself out there as much as you possibly can. The best marketing is some marketing. Like if you're not really doing much and you're not consistent, then people are just not going to know about you. For me, for example, I am a VTuber manager, so me having VTubers primarily as my audience is completely fine. Aspiring VTubers, experienced VTubers, also just regular people interested in learning about marketing in general, all are welcome here. And that's something that I am completely okay with. And so I have 3 different types of people I can reach out to. And if I upload this stuff, which I intend to, that will reach out to people who want that content. With YouTube, if you upload stuff, they designed the website so that they match you with the exact kind of people that want to watch you or people like you. I hope that answers that question. But with Twitch, you just cannot lose hope. You have to actually improve. And one of those skills that is actually underrated and not discussed at all in a lot of videos you'll see online of like, how do you be successful? Well, do you know how to improv? Do you know how to talk and exaggerate or like pronunciate? Do you know how to, oh my God, do you know how to be entertaining? You can do all sorts of things, but if I talk like this a lot, it's probably not going to be a really good match because, oh my God, if I'm talking like totally like Valley Girl, Moe Valley Girl, then I don't think people are going to really take me seriously with my teaching. Though I could be really wrong. It could be more infotainment, but, I don't exactly want to put the production into infotainment. That's not what I'm aiming for. And so with me, I try to keep it a little more chill. I'm aiming for something a little bit different. I can have a little bit of comedy here and there. But for the most part, I am just trying to be informative. I'm trying to provide free education. And that's exactly what I am setting out to do. Maybe the goal is cross-platform discoverability. Yes, it is. Thank you, Eden. By the way, I'm not going to break NDA or anything, but with Eden especially, she's been working so damn hard. She exemplifies, her and Odyssey and Yumiko and a good amount of other people that I work with exemplify everything that I'm talking about. Eden is right here. I'm going to give a shout out. I probably fucked that up. But with Eden, she has been planning a debut for 2 years. 2 years. And I have been working with her for the majority of this year. I came in a little late to all of her debut woes. And as we, picked the right video editors and we are producing the work together, and I'm like, okay, this is actually good. I like this direction. I leave it at that. I don't fix what's broke, and we just wait for people to find us. And over time, her YouTube channel has gotten more views. It's not like spectacular explosion, but we are getting like a few thousand views. We're getting higher and higher retention. We're getting more watch time hours. Like, there's tangible improvement. There's tangible discoverability happening with her videos. And so you have to start somewhere. And a lot of, I know a lot of people don't have the money to hire editors. And so at least doing minimal video editing and getting something out there is better than nothing, like I'm saying. And Eden, by the way, debuts on the 25th. I'm looking forward to that. It's something that it's a project I'm extremely proud about, and we're going to be advertising it all this month. So be sure to give her a follow, give her some love when the 25th comes around. You will hear a lot about it from me. And also, Odyssey is also working on a debut as well, and that will be coming along, and I will be giving more news about that as we go on. Go on the year, that is. While it's easy, if we blame the audience, it will usually end up in a spiral from there, from what I'm seeing. Yeah, I mean, there are people who are not one-to-one. And so if you're sitting there lashing out and you are really trying to squeeze them for what they are, and you're constantly doing subathon after subathon after subathon, they're going to feel like commodities. They're going to feel like products. And we really don't want that. We want them to feel like valued community members, especially starting out. Eventually, over time, you don't exactly have that privilege of doing that anymore. Eventually, chat moves so fast. You have so many people to keep track of. It literally becomes impossible for you to be friends with everyone. And the goal shouldn't be for you to be friends with everyone. You are a content creator. You can be friends with people in your community, but you should provide good content at the very least and focus on your content, not focus on the audiences. Because if we focus on content first, the audiences come. It's, if we build it, they will come mentality. If you have a mismatched audience, you have to work twice as hard, but you have to do the work anyways to get your name out there and find audiences who will appreciate your work more. Yumiko is streaming right now, but she is the perfect example of this. I've been dating her for 2 years, and yesterday was our anniversary. We'll be officially celebrating it tomorrow on our day off for both of us. But I've been working with her as long as I've been dating her, 2 years. We've changed audiences 4 different times. 4 times. It took us so long to find the right audience. And it took finding the right model for her. It took finding the right time and place. And sometimes, unfortunately, it's just luck. And for her, she does not get raids at all, really. She'll get maybe like 1 or 2 raids, but that's only recently in the past like month and a half. It's not even like 90 days that she started getting this out of 2 years. Before this recent burst of activity from her, she has no raids at all. And she's only slowly growed at a crawl. And so trying to get to that point, has been a big pain in the ass. I'm not going to lie, because you have an audience that's mismatched. They're there mostly for the sexual reasons, though for her, she's not exactly a lewd tuber. She's not there to provide sexual services or anything. She likes being, she's punny, you know, she likes her witty humor, and she'll make sex jokes, but that doesn't necessarily mean that she's looking for that. But there was a lot of people that wanted that from her, that had a lot of social ineptness, and I'm not trying to dog on those people. I'm just being descriptive. It's just factual observation. It was really hard to get any kind of feedback. It was really hard to get respect for that. And so we had to continue trying, and we tried new things, new games. We tried new approaches with Twitter. Some things worked, some things didn't. And then recently she started with her new model, which is extremely expressive as a 3D model. It took being a really expressive model, putting out a lot of videos that are short, and connecting with people because she's actually funny, but also her design slaps. People resonate with both things at the same time. There's an equal amount of people that thinks, wow, that's a really hot model, but it's also extremely expressive. There's also a lot of people that are horny for her, but they get overshadowed quite easily by the more people who are actually there for her. And they actually have conversations in chat. They actually respond to community surveys and stuff. And so it took us 2 years to get to that point. And that is relentless amounts of effort and hours put in. And she would be what I consider an anomaly. But if you find yourself in that type of position and you find yourself as an anomaly as well, it does get better, but you cannot give up. You have to keep trying and improving. All right, time for a drink. I'm sweaty. All right, the pants come off. It's hot in here. Freedom never felt so good. All right, so how far back does YouTube look at your video? Okay, I'm actually going to sit as well. Gonna move this standing desk down, clamp it, move my chair up. Alrighty. How far back does YouTube look at your videos and then decides what your channel is about? Every 28 days. So every 28 days, it will do a complete recalculation of all of your data. So basically, like, data that is 28 years old and then day 29 comes by, the first and earliest data will no longer be relevant in recent recordings for these kind of things. That seems complicated, but if I were to then upload my YouTube video, say by the end of the week, like November 3rd, if I did 28 days, it'd be like by the end of the month, early December. So the data that came up on like November 3rd and 4th will start to not be relevant in like December 1st or 2nd. I'm no math scientist, but that may be, that sounds about right. It has a 28-day window, essentially. You're very welcome. I'm glad that my advice can help. What if you're a variety and just not consistent with any one genre or not for long, but be it Twitch or YouTube or Multistream? I know you and I have talked specifically, Munch, but one thing that is actually just really important to do is, you know, if you're not consistent on Twitch, unfortunately, you're not going to do very well unless you yourself are an expected kind of event. Whatever your average is whatever averages out for whatever streams you put out. And so you're more likely to get more discoverability if you're starting out from complete scratch, no business, no nothing. If you stream minimum 3 days a week, 3 hours a day. I know a lot of us have talked about that kind of stuff in private, but to put it publicly, you need that minimum amount of stuff to provide some sort of discoverability. Like I said, you have to put yourself out there. And so going the approach with YouTube doesn't have as much of a I always got to be on type of ordeal. With YouTube, if you put enough effort in it and you just try and you upload it, you can come back to it. It's going to sit there and generate discoverability if you upload. It's just how it works. Sometimes it's not going to be a lot at first, but if you continue to improve, it will get better. So if you're not consistent with Twitch, you can do what I'm doing right now, and you can stream, cut it down, have a whole production pipeline, upload. But ultimately, I think the upload strategy is better for you. Twitch is not for everyone. And if this is just how you want to get things done, don't expect growth. It's a means to an end, streaming. If it's how you want to get information out there and at least do the recording in the first place, and you feel better talking bouncing off with an audience to make that content, then that's completely fine. But don't expect growth. Be pleasantly surprised when it happens. Keep your expectations low. Oh, that laugh in the background. That would be Yumi. She is streaming now. We live together. And despite my room having a lot of sound treatment, it is not soundproof. And she is a loud tomboy. She speaks from the gut. And she has a strong gut, strong airway, strong muscle. She is a strong woman. And she is a proud woman. That's why you will hear her time to time. And I'm just a little quiet, mousy girl. Let's see. So I brought up NDAs. So let's see. I brought up NDAs. Okay. I'm like fucking blind. I need to like adjust my glasses and look at the screen. So you brought up NDAs. Now I'm curious, do you use a typical NDA or do you specialize them for your quote unquote industry, for a lack of a better term? Well, yes, VTubing is an industry. And so with my NDAs, it's a very, very basic NDA where it's essentially a promise of like, hey, we're both going to sign this document and promise each other that sensitive information, especially relating to your data, your strategies, the things that we do together for especially sensitive information, it's a promise mostly that benefits my clients of like, hey, I'm not going to say anything. Make sure you don't say anything. And we're going to keep this between us. I mean, it's going to be cool. And we're going to keep this and release information as we go together. But also it releases liability for myself if like the other person breaks the NDA. And vice versa. If I break it, they're not liable. It's a very, very basic thing, and it's for projects, especially because a lot of people have with debuts in VTuber sphere. Debuts are very sensitive things. Like you have a whole production going on, and it can last months or even years, like it did with Eden, and so a lot of it is stuff that you should not leak, but I only comment on stuff that's public information. And for Eden, her debut is the 25th, but she's also discussed before how long she's been working on it. She's been working really hard. I'm really proud of her, and I do want to talk about her. And that's well within the realm of reason, and I do clearly define what is within the realm of reason. So that's all it is. I do it with every management contract so that because strategies are also sensitive things, we want to preserve some sort of wow factor. We want to like entertain. We're in the entertainment business, so if we leak stuff out, it's going to spoil the surprise. And so the element of surprise is important to upkeep. And I like preserving the sanctity of the surprise with an NDA. It just makes a lot of sense. I know NDAs in a lot of other industries and with a lot of people, it's a very negative term. It's a negative document because a lot of companies try to avoid accountability that way. It even happens in the VTuber industry often with companies. But for me, it's just accountability. Hey, no one has to apologize for being late. That's why I'm doing this for so long. It's a 5-hour stream this time, though normally I'm going to be streaming every Tuesday for 4 hours a day. And it's all going to be VODs, so there's no pressure to come here. You don't have to apologize to me. I'm proud to have worked with you too, Eden. Lamp Devil, speaking of finding the right model, I am curious to hear your general advice on like rebranding and the pros and cons if you're interested in digressing. One of the things about rebranding is that whole thing about like how you don't have the right audience. Nothing's really working. And you have a complete audience mismatched and you've tried a lot of things. You've been doing it for like a year. And you're just like, I don't know what else to fucking do. So maybe a rebrand can be necessary. And I would have to agree. Sometimes a rebrand is a relevant strategy. It's not a bad idea. But that's only if like you haven't actually gotten feedback and like you're completely alone and you need that extra oomph and bump. I can understand it. I sympathize with it. I've worked on a lot of re-debuts myself. Oftentimes that's what a 2.0 is good for. It's to keep the same branding but push it back out, but also to update people with how you want to visually identify. And so if you want to go ahead and rebrand, there's nothing wrong with it, but it is better to have some, if you're looking for that big bang out of a debut, you need to actually put resources, time, and energy into it. And debuts can be very cheap. I mean, for me, I'm putting like no money into any of this. I did a labor trade with Iris for this, for doing consultations. Iris provided me with this model. I spent $0. I provided relevant skills that she needed and feedback, and I got a model out of it. It doesn't have to be expensive, but at the same time, if you just don't have the time, but you do have the money, or if you save up and you get the money, sometimes your stream career will have to be put on pause. And you just come back swinging, you come back strong. That's kind of my model for that. Come back swinging, come back strong. You find the right model for yourself. I typically find that the right model is one that as a set of design traits that really resonate with you. Like if you created the mood board yourself, you worked with a rather experienced artist that knows character design decently well, and ultimately it also showcases your personality on your sleeve. I find that the best designs do that. And even outside of VTubing and animation as well, like I recently watched a really good movie on Netflix called Nimona. And Nimona was like an gender fluid character, and everything about them was absolutely great. It like Nimona was very I cause problems on purpose gremlin type of character. And they were like a little short bean with short pink hair, very punk rock and shark teeth, able to shapeshift into literally anything. But the design very much fitted their personality, and the shape of their clothings also helped exemplify their personality. And same thing would be true with VTubers. If you're able to exemplify your personality, you're able to give yourself shape so that you pass something called the silhouette test. If you have things that pass like a colorblind test, like if I were to put Tessa in completely black and white here, you'd be able to make out her shapes right? So even if I kept the hand in or out, it doesn't matter. The hair as it is built the way it is, and the colors, they're nice. They add personality to it. But if I removed the colors from the entire outfit, it would still stand out. And I wanted to go with something classy, a little bit sexy, but ultimately something that was more me. But also the big reason why I abandoned the live 2D model. Yes, I did have a live 2D model, and now I'm with a PNG. I don't consider it a downgrade. I don't. For me, I am working with limited hardware, and I'm doing the best I can. And streaming off of one laptop is really difficult if you're trying to get everything together, especially if it isn't like, even gaming laptops have their limitations too, especially if you're trying to do more things. And so for me, this is all I'm going to do, and it's all it's needed. I mean, how do y'all enjoy the PNG model? I mean, I'm sure it looks really nice for you, even with all these different expressions, A little bit of sadness and fucking tired. So at the end of the day, like it serves the purpose that I need it to. And that's why, for me, choosing the right model and going for it is a matter of time and patience, energy and resources. So if you put the time and energy and resources into it, I think it will resonate with people, especially if it's unique. There's also more things to talk about with that. But that's generally how I approach like the branding aspect of consultations, is I review people's designs often and I improve them so that they actually stand out. I aim to make it so that your eyes already are drawn to the character and you're already invested emotionally. That's exactly the thing that I want in a good VTuber design. People can emotionally connect with it pretty quickly and easily and feel excitement. And so that then presents the attachment aspect of things, and we're going into a little bit of consumer behavior, which is a type of psychology. I would agree. Numi has done a lot of work, and there is a lot of luck, especially with getting to that size. Like even mid-sized streamers do struggle, and they have to put a lot of work and energy. And to me, I don't exactly see people as big streamers, small streamers. I'm at that point in my life that I see everyone really the same. And everyone is putting in so much work. Like sometimes some of the best content is from people who have like 5 CCV. And that's okay. Not everything is meant for everyone. And so what's better is digging a hole and inviting people in your hole. Oh, you want me to stretch? Okay. Big stretch. The benefits of VTubing: no pants, thong only. To tell the truth, by the way, I am not intending myself for teaching kids. This is very much me intending to teach adult night class style education. Tell the truth, the person on the other side of the screen could be nude and you wouldn't know because their model is clothed. Absolutely. I'm reading. Mild meeting, Yumi screaming in background. Yes, that will happen a lot. Like if I just point. So I purposely went out of my way to get a shotgun microphone, because if I just stop talking, it's built in such a way to negate most of. It's literally built to negate most of the things on the side and back of it, especially the back of it. But the door is parallel to the side of the microphone, so it's going to pick up just a little bit of things. And I also have a Rodecaster Pro 2. and it has an onboard EQ, and I've set everything to the exact setting that matches my voice, matches the microphone, matches my room, and my needs with Yumi in the background because she's quite loud. But if I were to just move it over towards the door, hold on. Okay, and then here is me pointing it away from me. Now, you could be able to hear me a little bit, but it's very quiet. Now it's back on me, and that's how it works. It does a really fucking great job. It's the Rode NT1. Or the Rode NT4. Really good microphone. I can utilize it for a lot of other things, especially like cooking streams and stuff, where I just point the microphone at the food and you'll get the nice crunchies. I think I answered the question thoroughly about NDAs. Just real quick, I will quickly go over the NDAs again. So I have NDAs for project management mainly. For every management client that I have, I'm working on some sort of project with people. I'm working on like collabs. I'm working on all sorts of different events, and so we typically want to keep it on the hush hush, and so it's essentially an official promise to keep things hush hush so that neither of us spoil it. And I take my work very seriously, and I want to make sure that events are the best that they can be. And so that is just an assurance to keep both of us accountable. Because management services for me is more than just coaching. I do consultations, and that can be coaching. But I also do production work where I like like a film producer, where I am very much being hands-on with video editors if I need to be, and I am directing how to present the video. And I'm not about to leak out the video myself onto the internet before the creator in question has the video. It doesn't make much sense. And so having that would be, one would say that's common sense not to do that, but I make it so it's serious that everyone is on the same board and they're actually like talking to me, and we're actually planning things smartly and are on the same page when things go out. And so there's a lot of very time sensitive, very sensitive information in general that has to be handled, and I take that very seriously. Question from Glitch Symphony. I've been thinking of getting rid of pre-roll ads and changing to mid-roll ad. Is it worth it? That way when someone enters, they are immediately met with an ad. I would say mid-rolls typically are worth it. It really depends on your audience, and you really need to kind of just try one thing out or the other. But I advocate more for mid-rolls. It's just kind of a central thing that, you spread it out for a duration of like a minute and a half per ad so that there's less of them for the stream, and don't space it out too much. Otherwise, you just got to really work with the settings and see which one is best for you. Yes, it is. Fee, you signed the NDA. It is a non-intrusive NDA. Oh, you're saying it is. Okay, you're confirming. Okay. Question: what about cross-platform streaming, not simulcast? You're gonna need to define that for me. My autistic ass is not computing very well. So, Mitski, if you're able to define that a little bit better, I'll be able to answer you. Would I consider... Oh, this is a really good question. From Hitsuzen9, would you consider would I consider my own strategies to be trade secrets in my case? No, not really. I believe education should be free, and I intend, whatever I say on stream, I intend to be public information, trade secret or not. If it's related to an NDA, I'm not going to speak on it. It's kind of the thing I've been harping on. But outside of that, strategies that are more generalized, I'm just going to talk about them. One of my whole things here is I want to provide free education, and I intend on doing that regardless. But the one thing I have to disclaim always is that just because it's generalized information doesn't mean it's personalized. Personalized information will always be better. I'm not exactly scared of losing business in this regard, because I'm rather confident that there is still a demand for the how to do it specifically for a specific use case. So like one person is going to have a very different situation than another, and they're going to need a lot of help. And so I'm there to help those who need it. Of course, I cost money. And so if people can afford it, they can get the personalized help. It's there for your option and availability. So Firozera, yeah, you can ask more questions. Anyone can ask as many questions as you want. It's completely okay. If I were to end up being in the VTuber news or in an article, how do you best capitalize on that? Ooh, that can be really variable. Like if you are, like for example, I've been in news articles myself, and usually the author, the journalist in question will promote it, and then I'll just quote retweet it and give further explanation on what I was talking about. But if someone is like quoting you out of context, for example, you very well can and maybe should respond to that. But oftentimes, if it's especially drama related, probably, this is weird, because if it's drama related and someone's taking you out of context, this has happened to me a lot in the past. In hindsight, I probably should have ignored it, because those people who watch that type of drama content, they're going to be an audience mismatch in the first place for usually most people. Those type of people want that specific type of content that is drama. They're not there for you, typically. So find the people and care about the people who are typically there for you. But if it's like so damning and it actually hurts your reputation, they are liable for a lawsuit. That's completely on them. But if it does hit that liability threshold where they are actually like slandering or and defamation type of thing, you really should respond at that point. If only if it like gets out of hand. But if it's like a nobody who doesn't really have much reach or anything, just ignore it and move on with your day. That's kind of the rule of thumb I have for really anyone. Mitsuki, definition time. I stream on YouTube beginning of week and stream on Twitch at the end of the week. It's not like, okay, so I would, so for that, that's not a bad thing per se. With you, it's just about expectations. If you're streaming exclusively to YouTube and you don't do uploads, expect one hell of a grind and like no interaction. It's just not the place for it, and I've explained why thoroughly. But like, you can do that. It's certainly a thing. I wouldn't typically advise it. I would advise uploading And at this point, simulcasting. If you're going to be streaming to YouTube anyways, you might as well have it on the same days and just increase your days. So if you're doing one Twitch stream at the start of the week, one YouTube at the end of the week, why not just do 2 simulcasts at the same time, beginning and end of the week? That just seems, now that that's an option, it just seems easier on you, and you could probably even have more time to yourself. Is there a way to make OBS not look bad UI-wise? That is an interesting question. There are different plugins you can get for OBS. You can change the theming of it too, but you can also color code your sources. There's a way to make OBS really pretty. You just got to put the time into it. But as far as like the foundational UI, it's open source, so you technically can do something about it if you're savvy enough or hire someone. But like, it's not that big of a deal. You do have to learn your way around it, but it's worth learning at the end of the day. Fees question. A lot of people have been talking about the content creation landscape switching over to short form content. Some people are even quitting YouTube over it. Any thoughts? So I'm not saying that that shorts are not like going away anytime soon, but they definitely do have their place. They have their use cases, and if people are quitting over YouTube over it, I do sympathize with the frustration, but I don't think it's that big of a deal, in my opinion, because authenticity is always going to win over anything else. And with short form content, it really depends what field you want to specialize in. Like if you're doing cooking videos, I made the example with like Townsend's that specializes in historical cooking of a very specific era. Like if you want to see like 18th century fried chicken recipe, Townsend's has it, and it's a really good video too. And it's very chill, very homey, and like it's got its place, you know. But you know, if you are feeling like over dominated by shorts, you don't have to feel needed to do that, because there's a thing called an idea ceiling, where you are living inside of a bit of a, so think of like onion layers, right? So if the first layer is dominated by what you know and what you're immediately working on, that's all fine and dandy. You should work on that and you should get good at it. But eventually you should branch outside of that and actually take risks and experiment. And further niching down can be an option. But if you're already so niche to the point where you're not getting discovered, then you have to broaden out and probably find something else. And so think about the viewers you can reach rather than the viewers you're not getting. That's generally a really good rule of thumb to have with content creation, is what is it that I'm doing right now that isn't fun or interesting? Am I having fun with this? If the answer is no, then switch it up so you are having fun. Do what you want to do and keep doing it. Now, shorts, you do have to be very snappy. You do have to have a quick pace. Typically, we're looking at transitions of segments in the video that is like 1 to 3 seconds long at best. And then you're going boom, boom, boom in a rapid succession of 15 to 30 seconds, maybe even a minute. But it does have to be that quick paced. And you do have to, sometimes you can do as the Romans do and see what other people are doing with your very specific way of doing things. So if you're doing like cooking videos, see what other people are doing, see what you like, but then put a twist on it that is yours, or just do something else entirely different. But do remember like pacing and storytelling fundamentals. Okay, this is a really good question. When is too early for merch store? I would say for most, okay, statistically speaking, most streamers are not going to be partners. Let's just say that much. If you're an affiliate and you have like 35 CCV, let's just say, and you have a really high conversion rate, like you can get, if you make a post somewhere and you see a lot of people clicking on it, and you like do some sort of quick sale with like Rogue Energy, you're going to, and you actually get sales from that. That could be an indication of wanting to expand out into merchandising. Or if you are able to like put out, hey, I'm live, and you get a lot of people clicking that, or you're promoting your YouTube channel and people are actually clicking a thing and doing the thing you want them to do, that can be a good indication. Or on Discord as well, and they verbally actually say in a large quantity, like, hey, hey X, I want merchandising. I want plushies. I want dakimakura. I want booba mousepad. Oppai. You're going to see the demand there. And maybe it is a good idea, but just because they say they're interested doesn't exactly mean they're going to buy it. Because like if you're selling a plushie for like $50, $45, that doesn't mean that the people who are interested in the plushie are able to afford it. And so you need to be able to be careful with the dealings that you make. And if you want to start off with something like Streamlabs, that is one thing you can do. And there's no bad side to doing it. It's going to be there, but keep your expectations low. There's no like magic number CCV of like when is a good time. Like, oh, when I hit partner, I'm going to drop merchandising. You could be a partner and not sell shit. Oftentimes that is the case. Smaller partners do struggle to sell merchandising, and then they look for someone who's an expert in marketing like myself to help them sell things, and then they start selling things. And my services they definitely pay for themselves at times. But it's just firsthand experience that I have. There's no there's no set like milestone. It's like, oh yes, I hit 80 CCV. Now I'm going to start doing merchandising. The best time to start merchandising is when you actually see demand. And you just take a risk and you see what happens. But start small. Always start small. Should creators be switching to short form in order to succeed? No. Yes and no. Switch to short form only if it feels necessary. But if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. You know, you try for like months and months and months and months, and you're constantly improving, like I suggested, and nothing works. Maybe shorts are not for you in your brand. Maybe people want something else from you, and maybe they want long form content. Maybe they want a fucking podcast. I don't know. But not everyone. Shorts are not for everyone. Like that's just kind of how it is. I was thinking just stickers like Redbubble. Do not go to Redbubble. Fuck Redbubble. It's not worth it. You barely make any money from it. They take too high of a cut. Do not go to Redbubble. Bye-bye, Odyssey. Have a good day or stream. All right. I believe I have started. I've caught up with things for the most part. What is a good starting website for merchandising, like simple merchandising and low risk? That would be typically the websites that other companies like Kitsune Corner makes for you, a landing page. But if you had to do your own merchandising on yourself, I would say Fourth Wall is a very low risk, no money thing. But if you yourself wanted to make more profit from it, arguably Shopify, but I would stick with something like Fourth Wall. Or if you have like upfront and you're wanting to do a merch drop, maybe go with a place like Kitsune Corners. I have a need to take a drink. Mind you, I'm like picking up a full gallon of water to drink, and it's kind of unruly. All right. Thank you for the biddies. Be a bigger VTuber for what? Merchandising? No, not necessarily. Like if it's all about demand, because like let's just say that for me for example, oh Vyoshi, it really depends. I don't really know. I haven't worked with Vyoshi personally, so I can't say what their in-house standards are. But typically, what I would say, even if I were to give advice to different companies like that, I would prioritize the people who can actually make sales. If I'm going to invest my time, energy, and resources into presenting merchandising for a brand, I want to make sure they can actually follow through with it. So, again, I don't care if you're big or small. Typically, if you're bigger, you're just doing what's called the game of averages. And if you have like 1,000 people to advertise to, maybe 100 people are going to click it, and then maybe one person's actually going to buy. If you multiply that exponentially to like 10,000, 100,000, the chances are rather high that someone is going to buy. And so that is quite just business logic right there. But the caveat to this that I argue is that small streamers can also make a big return as well if they have a what's called a high conversion rate. So if that whole math thing of like, I find myself with like, I make a post about like if I had merchandising and I had like a Tessa keychain or something, like Tessa sticker, or a Tessa coffee mug. Let's just say Tessa coffee mug, best VTuber mama in the world, or best VTuber manager in the world. And it's like a Tessa mug. And I were to sell that mug for like $3, $5 to meet the profit margin or something. And I were to promote that out. And I have a total of something like 10,000 impressions, right? Somewhere. Like, let's just say it's like Twitter, 10,000 impressions. And I get about like 200 or like, let's just say 100 link clicks, right? I tend to get a lot of that. So coffee is a good place to do your merchandise as well. If you have the stock, to ship out and you yourself are going to ship it out, yes, do coffee. If you, for example, have, let me go back to my example. So coffee mug, 10,000 impressions, 100 link clicks, and then I get like one person to buy the coffee mug. I've made like what? 0.01% or something like that. I'm no math scientist. You're welcome. Hope to see you around. Remember, there's going to be a VOD for this if you miss it all. So if I were to increase that, if I had an impression of like 10,000, had like 500 link clicks, 5 people buying, okay, it's a start. And then I keep doing that. And then I eventually make 1,000 sales in a month. I've sold 1,000 mugs. I'm pretty confident I could sell other things like a keychain or stuff. And then I take a risk and then I sell something bigger like a Dakimakura of Tessa. And once I sell the Dakimakura on a limited time amount, I sell out. That gives me more incentive to do bigger and better things. And for me, myself, I'm not massive, but I could still probably sell all this stuff. But But for me, I personally won't do that because I don't believe I have the demand. I don't think anyone wants Tessa merch right now. I just started streaming right now. And I intend to actually be consistent now. But I don't think it's time for me to do merchandising. It's not a focus of mine. I'm pretty fine financially. But I would only do it if people actually wanted the merchandising. It is a way to diversify your income, but it's not one you should take lightly. Thank you for the hype train, everyone. What does one do when you want to do a cover but get scared to do so? You mean like singing? If you mean like singing, okay, so singing. I would say do the cover. Make sure you have good audio. That's going to be like flat out. Just make sure you have good audio. And then get feedback from friends. Get feedback from friends and make sure you surround yourself with people who are going to be honest with you as well. And not a bunch of ass kissers or people not wanting to make you upset. It's good to have honest, constructive feedback. And so if you can get that feedback and people actually say, hey, you're not actually, I mean, you're an okay singer. You're not really good with your breathing control or whatever. And you could honestly use a lot more practice. And well, you can find someone like Evie. She's a VTuber who was a music teacher and now does commissions for music for vocal lessons and for singing specifically. Now she's not a vocal coach, but she is a music instructor, and so you commission someone like her and take singing lessons, and you improve, and you actually learn how to sing, and you keep trying and trying. If you want to put out the cover, put out the damn cover and keep improving as you go. It's really the same logic as any other type of content, you know. Put out the cover, improve as you go. And you can honestly be proud of the progress you make. All right. So I think I touched a bit on it about like how long form content is coming back. I honestly do think that, you know, for anyone who has like a lot of trouble staying consistent on Twitch and also has struggles to even stream in general, maybe you should do some vlogging on YouTube. Maybe actually just like turning on like PNG Tuber Plus, VTube Studio, VNyan, just turning on whatever program you have your model up on the screen, and you just like for me, I have myself here 3 different sticky notes. I have 3 sticky notes that I've got here. And so I am very much, I've got, how many points do I actually have on the sticky note? I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. I have 3 sticky notes, 20 different topics to talk about for this stream. And so what I'm doing is what I call batch recording. And that's why I'm streaming at the same time, is so I can have a live audience to answer questions with and actually utilize my expertise in a helpful way. And what I'm going to do later is I'm going to chop all this up and I'm actually just going to go for it. And I'm not going to think twice about it. I have all these topics, and then I'm going to turn them into videos. Chop, 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 and it's done. And I'm doing just chatting. I'm not even like gaming or anything. I'm actually engaging in like a specialty that I have. And so if I wanted to talk about, say, I don't know, if I were to start a vlog, right? And let's just say I want to talk about something that has been interesting me for a while. Let's just say the idea of 4 seasons. I can open up my window and I can actually see red, green, orange, pink, yellow. I can see that on trees. Having 4 seasons actually changes my mood. And for me, I personally I grew up in Arizona, and there's like 2 seasons. You get like a really you get like you have like 3 seasons, and you have like 2 weeks of winter. You have like a month of winter, 2 weeks of spring, and then mostly summer for the rest of the year. And then now that I'm here where I'm at, I have 4 seasons. And so I'm actually like, something about my mood every day is changing. And I think that, it's, if you found yourself wanting to move somewhere, maybe actually try something new. And then if I just kept going on and on about 4 seasons, I would then clip that out and then turn that into a vlog itself. My thoughts on 4 seasons or whatever. And so, yeah, if you can relate to that, it's easy to relate to. And I'm just thinking of something off the top of my head. I'm just talking about something random, and then I'm going to clip that discussion and random thoughts about 4 seasons, and I'm going to turn it into a video. Easy. Content creation doesn't need to be hard. You really do just got to start for a lot of beginners. And then for partners, especially, a lot of partners could honestly, have a little extra something like this. It is nice to have multiple options of expression and letting people get to know you a little bit. So a lot of people will do like just chatting, then their game, then just chatting again. I call that sandwiching. So you start off with the just chatting segment, then you do your gaming, then just chatting. Typical strategy I give to a lot of my clients. And if during the just chatting segment you're talking about these random things that come up, like 4 seasons and how it affects your mood, you just take that and make it your video on like a vlog channel that you make on YouTube. Like you have your main VTuber channel, then you have, like I have Tessa vlog, or some channel that I call it, and I'll have my random topics on that I clip out of stream. So that was one little thought I had about vlogging that I really wanted to get across is, you can really, the world is at your fingertips. There's so many topics out there, so many hobbies. Why don't you, it'd be nice to see more VTubers actually explore their hobbies and passions. And if gaming is the only thing that you have, okay, that's fine. And if you only ever like playing something like Apex, then, get damn good at it. There's nothing wrong with it. If you personally don't like just chatting like this and you feel like you need to play a game to keep the anxiety low, that's fine. For me, typically when I'm like in meetings, I'll play something like Slay the Spire, Hanafuda, Shadowverse. I'll play like Harvest Moon or something that doesn't require a lot of thinking and just requires second-hand action. And I'll do that to stimulate because I have ADHD and autism. And so for me, I feel the need to stimulate on something. And typically there's like fidget cubes. I have myself a fucking multi-tool. I don't open it up during the stimulation times. I also have I have a lot of different stim toys as well. But right now I'm like stimming on I'm stemming on a multi-tool. Does anyone else have any questions before I continue moving on? Okay, if you already stream to YouTube, should you create another channel for the vlogs and clips? Here's what I would say. In your case, Gummy, I believe, yeah, no, you're the person I work with. Yes. In a case like yours where you're streaming, it's probably for the best to keep the vlogs and clips on the same channel and see how that works and be consistent with it. Try uploading like once a week and see how that goes. And then if that doesn't work over the span of like 6 months, then maybe make that second channel and upload everything to that. Okay, so I want to move on a little bit with other frequently asked questions. Okay, hold on. What's the difference between simulcasting and multi-stream? Honestly, I don't know. I think it's potato potato. In my opinion, it means the same thing to me. So I get a lot of questions that I honestly have to deal with a lot during my consultation processes and just general questions that I have with both new and old clients. A lot of it was discussed here, but I'm going to be very concise and organized with it right now. The first thing I wanted to talk about was, how do I find an audience? And I've been talking about that a lot. But in short, you find an audience by uploading, but also niching down. And so what I typically have people do to do that is I have you look at what hobbies you have, what your passions are, what skills do you have, and what niche is out there for you that you don't see at all, or you see exist, and like, I could actually do that a little bit better. And we try to find the commonalities between that, and we have ourselves an elevator pitch. But also, if you don't know what hobby you have, which I've had an issue with other people, that they either don't have a hobby at all, that gets a little more difficult. But for the people who have too many hobbies but don't know where to start, I have plenty of people like that. And so what I'm suggesting now as something you can do to find that right audience for you is you can be a technical variety streamer who does, if you have a lot of interest in gaming, try out to see what actually really sticks with you, and then eventually become very consistent in that one or two things. But keep trying it out, and you can have your chaos days, right? But for the most part, you want to try to keep consistent with something. And if that main branding for you is just you going on a journey of discovery, maybe that could be, you can spin it as really relatable. And that you preamble every stream of like, hi, hi, my name is, hello, my name is Chad VT, and I am an anime protagonist who is, I have like 1,001 hobbies, or things that I want to try that are hobbies. And me, Chad VT, I am going to try every hobby once per stream. And if I like something, I'll keep doing it. If not, then we'll move on. Today we're going to hike. Today we're going to sew. You have all these options that you could do, and just kind of like try one thing. And if something resonates with you personally, then, like, let's just say Chad VT were to try, he had literally like 100 streams. He's like, I'm Chad VT. I've done 100 streams. And I myself, I don't like card games. Card games are not for me. I like gaming, but I don't really like it that much. I like hiking. I like surviving in the wild. Okay, Chad VT, why don't you actually like stream yourself in the wild? Oh wait, there's no fucking service, so you're gonna have to make a vlog. Okay, I'm not gonna stream to Twitch anymore. I'm just gonna make a YouTube channel, and that's okay. Everyone's gonna have different journeys. And not every platform or medium is going to be effective for you. And so, like, there is a way, like, a VTuber could do a survival video. Like, you're doing, like... I've seen VR chatters do this, and I believe it could work for something like that, where you have the VTuber model on the screen. The tracking is on, and they have, like, the neck bands that hold the phones, and you can keep a steady tracking like that. And if you had a laptop around, you could probably have connected to a camera on a tripod and keep your laptop with you, solar charge it, of course, and then you have your perspective shots. You have your tracking with your phone, and then you have camera tripod to actually record what you're doing. And then you could probably like record yourself with a VTuber reaction, like chopping wood, or some shit. You could do the same thing with cooking streams. Like there's a lot of things you could do. You just gotta get really creative with it. But I imagine that, if someone did that and started uploading that kind of thing, I think that would cause a decent amount of traction. Maybe it might be a rough start at first, but if they just kept doing it and doing it and doing it, someone is going to catch on, and I do think that would be quite successful. It will find the right audiences if you're consistent with it. And that is where I congratulate ChadVT for becoming the first bushcraft VTuber. And ChadVT then rebrands to 2.0 with the Rambo outfit. Exactly. Welcome to the games of Bushwhacking. So one of the things I have here is think about it this way. I've like answered like 5 different FAQs all in one. Like there's the product and service and the ikigai. All of these things are like actually figuring out what you want to do. You identify your audience, and there's a special little business term called audience segmentation, which means that you are niching down and you are splitting up your audiences. You're not exactly getting like as wide of a reach as you can. You're getting a very specific audience, and then you're branching out from there. Hence the idea ceiling thing, where you get good with the audience that you are working with, then you look outside of that audience with the people that could be watching you, and you constantly improve and cater your content accordingly. You have to have goals and a plan. And with goals, you're going to want to set very specific goals. We call them SMART goals. So they're, I should have this memorized. So they are specific, measurable, attainable. No, I already got it wrong. Shite. Give me a moment. I have it up. Okay. Specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, time-based. SMART goals. So a SMART goal is if it has those 5 factors. So if it's specific, let's just say ChadVT, right? ChadVT, he wants to be a bushcraft VTuber. Like he started off with variety. He had no SMART goals. He's just like, hey, I have like 1,001 hobbies. I'm going to do stuff until I find one that I really like. Then he eventually finds bushcraft. Now we're starting to create SMART goals for ChadVT. So with ChadVT, he's now being specific. He's like, okay, I'm a bushcraft VTuber. We've really narrowed it down. And so measurable. He's like, okay, ChadVT, I want to get to 100 subscribers in a month. ChadVT now has a measurable goal. Is it attainable? Is it reasonably accomplishable within that time? That would be also the T. It's time-based. So within 1 month, 100 goals as a bushcraft VTuber in 1 month. It's also relevant to the objectives at hand, to the branding at hand. And so ChadVT, the bushcraft VTuber, wants to get 100 subscribers in 1 month. I believe ChadVT could do that. If he uploaded once a week, right? Like he went on a trip to do like a bushcraft tutorial. He did it real quick. Here's how I use, here's my kit. First video, here's my survival kit. Video 2, here's the basics of of survival. Here's survival 101 things. And here's how to use this tool. Here's how you use this other tool. And he just makes these videos, and I believe that will get him to 100 subscribers pretty quick in 1 month if he uploads once a month. He brings the footage home, he edits it down, And so if he just so happens to have 30 minutes that is edited down from like 2 hours, okay, we've got ourselves a really good video here. That's on the point. You know, he's probably talking about his experiences while showing you how to do the thing. And he's got the VTuber model up, like with the setup that I mentioned. And I think something like that could actually get to that goal of 100 subscribers on the first month. Okay, let's just say ChatVT gets to that goal. ChatVT now needs to make another goal. Okay, so what's the next goal from 100 subscribers in month 1? Month 2, let's just say ChatVT wants to get to 500 subscribers on month 2. So how is ChatVT going to do that? Well, he could stay consistent, keep it the same, or he could show his videos to friends, get feedback, and be like, okay, what if I included some drone footage, or if I started doing different video editing techniques and I made it more snappy. Not exactly like TikTok extreme snappy, but like instead of 30 minutes, I tried 25 minutes and I kept putting things down. And then I had nice B-rolls added in rather than just one continuous footage that's chopped up. What if I added cinematography 101 principles to it and I had like my instruction video, like I'm chopping up a fucking log with a knife and I'm beating it down with a fucking stick while I'm at it. And I have myself a B-roll while I'm talking, and so I am foraging, for example. So I'm like teaching how to cook in the wild in this video, and I am like foraging for food. I find some mushrooms here and there, some berries, or in like herbage for spices in the woods. And while he's talking and giving instructions, he's showing this B-roll footage. Something like that. He keeps doing that and he brings it all together, makes a nice, concise beginning, middle, end, 3-act structure to it. He has his stakes of like, hey, this time I'm setting out to make one meal today. I'm going to camp out here tonight. I'm going to make a meal. And now we've got ourselves a goal. What about bugs? Okay, what if he cooks the bugs with it? It's nice little protein snacks. He's like, all right, we've got ourselves... I brought myself some rice as a base. That's the only thing I have. I have a like little Ziploc bag of rice. That's all I'm allowed to use. The rest I have to forage. And then he adds bugs to the rice. Whatever. Right. What if after that he continues the cooking streak and then later makes pemmican? He would have to hunt down something and then render the fat to tallow and then process the meat somehow and then make pemmican. I mean, my ancestors, the Native Americans, did it. So ChatVT could probably make pemmican in the wild. So if he did that, that'd be fucking awesome. I think he would overshoot 500 subscribers. Let's say ChatVT overshoots his goal. He's at 1,000 subscribers now. He's getting close to YouTube partner. But the one thing he's missing is watch time hours. So what can we do to get ChatVT to 1,000 subscribers and get him to YouTube partner with those criteria? You know what I would suggest to ChatVT is I would make a compilation out of the stuff he's done. So with all the cooking videos, he could compile them all into one longer video with segmented chapters and also implement B-rolls into the compilation and basically take the old videos and improve upon them into a compilation and provide extra commentary about what he think he could have done better and providing more context to different scenarios. And so ChatVT in that kind of way is going to have a very watchable long form video, and ChatVT is going to actually get to YouTube partner. Now we're on, I believe we're on month 3 now, or month 4. ChatVT is now a YouTube partner. But where do we go from here? Well, what we can do, ChatVT has a lot of options. ChatVT can specialize into being bushcraft survival cooking channel, or he could just be a general tutorial channel in general. But he would have to explore all sorts of different things. What if ChatVT started getting enough money to start traveling a little bit? What if he could be like, hey, now we're going to explore how to survive in a swamp. ChatVT is going to now go to a swamp. ChatVT also invests a little bit into his VTuber model to also reflect the environment he's in, what kind of clothes he's actually wearing, and put it on his VTuber model. That would actually be really cool. And so I think with that kind of thing, instead of like a fancy debut, he had a video premiere of sorts where he is like, think about like, okay, season 1, he's in the woods. Season 2, he's in the swamp. Season 3, he's in the desert. Season 4, he's in the Arctic or some other really cold environment. And then he could do like season trailers and stuff like that instead of a debut. See, something like that would be an effective strategy for that channel. And that's what I mean about the differences between a generalized advice versus personalized advice. Is getting creative like this does require personalization, but it is also something you can figure out on your own, depending on your own situation. But it's a lot of trial and error. It requires a lot of aggressive feedback and experimentation. Yeah, exactly. Survivor or Amazing Race. And so, except you've got yourself ChatVT, the bushcraft survivor VTuber. Hello, Aurora. We're currently talking about ChatVT, the bushcraft survival VTuber, who, instead of having debuts, he has season finales and season premieres. ChatVT he's on his journey of becoming a YouTuber, a really big YouTuber. And ChatVT has himself a nice little setup where he has his face tracking around his neck on one of those little fucking neck holders, and then ChatVT has a fucking camera tripod. Like he gets like himself like a Canon Rebel on a tripod, and he gets himself a laptop powered by a solar panel. ChatVT, the Rainforest Man, yes. And you know what I would do for him as well? For design, I would make ChatVT into a furry, and I would make him a stag, like a deer or a ram, you know, and I would have it kind of be like hybrid kind of thing first, and then he can have a whole furry form at a different date. But you know, if we had something in the middle, like Monster Boy kind of thing, ChatVT could be extremely thematic and interesting that way in the survival outfits as well. So if he's wearing like a military poncho while he's at it with like the antlers sticking out, like that would be really fun and interesting. ChatVT forgets his equipment, has to survive with just a knife. Now, that would be something that he would do on like month 5, is like raising the stakes. At that point, as a partner, he's been going, doing all these different these patterns, but now he wants to kind of switch it up, spice it up. So he has to raise the stakes. ChatVT is now going to Louisiana Bayou and conveniently, quote unquote, forgets his gear in the hotel. And it's like, you know what? Fuck it. YOLO, we're going into the bayou. There's alligators, there's giant mosquitoes, and there's all sorts of fucking things that could kill me. Let's fucking go. And I imagine if he's doing this and he's actually editing it, he's not being over the top either. There's no over the top editing. It's just him and the environment. That would make a very compelling story. Many models can be improved by Iraq. So that's essentially what I'm talking about here. The limits of VTubing has not been explored thoroughly yet. And so if I'm thinking here that that could definitely be an option for Chad VT. And so Chad VT, he's got all these things, and he's not even a streamer. He tried that already. He had 1,001 hobbies, narrowed it down to bushcraft because he's like, wow, this really stands out to me. I'm going to do this on YouTube because I don't have the fucking time to stream if I'm going to do this. Nor do I have the connection in the middle of the wilderness. Chad VT is the aspiration for VTubers. Chad VT. By the way, I will always use Chad VT when I'm explaining concepts. But essentially, what I'm talking about is marketing 101. And I'm using a practical example for VTubers here. With Chad VT, he has really narrowed himself down. He is very specific. He has his SMART goals. He has very specific feedback that he gets from people. Chad VT a soft boy, but he ain't no pussy. All hail Chad VT, exactly. Chad VT has goals. He sets out to do the goals. He doesn't stop. He has feedback from people. He knows to take breaks when he needs to. But he stays consistent. He has a plan moving forward. He adjusts the plan if it doesn't work. If it doesn't work as well, he improves. He doesn't ever stay stagnant. He's always looking back at what he can do better. And he aggressively experiments. So that is exactly what I'm talking about with marketing 101 kind of stuff. I have summarized an entire semester of marketing education with just Chad VT. Does Chad VT need Twitter? Not really, but he could connect with people on Twitter. Does Chad VT need Twitch? No. Does he need multi-streaming? No, he doesn't. If he doesn't want to keep his eggs in one basket, he can have a Discord community. He can have a Patreon. He's diversified his income. Let's just say Chad VT by month 6 has a Discord community. He posts on Twitter occasionally. It's not a focus because Chad VT is planning for his next survival trip. Chad VT goes to the moon. Yes, exactly. Yeah, Chad. I would actually recommend Instagram for Chad VT to put up images and videos. Honestly, I would suggest Chad VT to do TikTok. And you want to know why? It would give him an immense amount of exposure. And so Chad VT going to the swamp, he can summarize a lot of his quick hacks in a TikTok. And perhaps he could do some, while he's out in the wilderness, he can do a bit of batch recording just for TikTok and upload to TikTok and then Instagram and YouTube and see which one works. Now, would I actually recommend Chad VT to upload shorts to his main YouTube channel if he's already doing long form? And I would tell him, give it a shot. See if it actually works with your main audience first. If it doesn't, make a whole new channel for it, for just shorts, and see how it goes. It's going to be a brand new audience that gets to see your stuff, and you refer them back to the main avenue that you want. And in Chad VT's case, that's going to be, why did I want to say Mexico for, in my mind? It's not Mexico, but YouTube, his long form YouTube channel, not Mexico. Exactly. Elon Musk needs Chad VT more than he needs Elon Musk. Exactly. That's what we aspire for. Aside from wanting to do art streams, but DMC music is hard to find, makes me sleepy. So, honestly, what you can do is you can split your channels in OBS, and you can have they're called virtual cables, and if you were to DM me on Twitter or something or Discord, I can give you a guide for that. But essentially, what you're doing is through OBS, you have a virtual channel that you can have for your music, and it will play, but it won't save on the VOD. So what are my thoughts on VTuber groups? I think one that comes to mind is the one Buff Pup is in called Vichiban. Um, I think it's honestly a really good way to to uplift your friends and have consistent streaming partners that you can actually trust. I think there's a lot of utility and usefulness for it, and I actually would like to see more VTuber groups that aren't agencies pop up. I think it's much more productive for people's time. Let's see. I've covered multi-streaming, authenticity, vlogging, been going through my FAQ, um, product service, ikigai, audience and segmentation, audience ceiling, goals and KPIs, plan, content, feedback, and surveys. I can actually talk about that a little bit more because that's come to recent attention for people that aren't really used to creating surveys. I can actually dive a bit deeper in that. I introduced myself. You can see the model. It's all there. There's Twitter, Discord, Seasonality, Twitch, and another announcement. So one of the things I plan on doing later, as I prove to myself that I'm consistent at least once a week for this, I plan on streaming at 3 p.m. EST every Tuesday, and I plan on actually having it be 4-hour streams, 3 to 4 hours at most, and I'm just going to be doing this. I'm going to be answering questions. I'm going to be doing what I can for you. So to finish off my first post-it notes, I actually do find a lot of people having issues with a marketing 101 thing called a SWOT analysis. A SWOT analysis is you analyzing yourself and your brand and your competition at large. And so you can actually use it for literally anything. It's strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And so obviously strengths and weaknesses, that's rather intuitive. So for opportunities, it's things that are available around you, external stuff. So like, for example, ChatVT is a really, we'll go back to ChatVT. So ChatVT has the opportunity of there's a lot of bushcraft videos, but there's no VTubers in it. That's an opportunity right there. A threat to it is maybe there is a barrier to entry for ChatVT. But if ChatVT is actually good at what he does, he likes that hobby of bushcraft survival. If ChatVT actually goes for it and he's consistent with it, that threat becomes mitigated. And so his strengths, well, he's fucking good at bushcraft. He didn't know it before, but he knows it now. His weaknesses, maybe ChatVT has a lot of depression, and that's why he goes to the forest to become less depressed. He needs to connect with nature. He's also quite an anxious dude, and so that makes for real funny content because he's in the wilderness just being an anxious mess, but it also helps people relate to him. So he's not like super, like he's awesome, but like he's relatable. That would be really cool. If Chad VT was a 3D VTuber, that honestly would work if you wanted to see him like move his arms and shit. But he would need motion capture. So probably his best bet is actually utilizing Makopi in that instance, because it's not like you could just set up base stations with an index in like the fucking wild. So Makopi is probably going to be his best bet, and he's gonna need quite the beefy piece laptop. Makopi was made for Chad VT. Yes. Chad VT, absolute legend. Imagine Chad VT in a mocap suit. Sounds. Chad VT ragdolls. Chat VT is, yeah, it sounds like a really cool concept, doesn't it? I want to work with more chat VTs. We went over goals and KPI, plan, content, feedback, and surveys. Okay. So surveys, why do you do them? So remember how I'm saying like you need to get like aggressive amounts of feedback and stuff? So if you're actually getting the feedback, then you can actually improve and you know what people actually want. And it may help you with brainstorming as well. So if you were to just open up like a simple Google form, it's completely free. It provides everything you need. It's easy. And for someone like Chad V2 who is YouTube only, probably the best he's going to do. But with Twitch, if I were to say something like this, let me actually just type it out. Because I could do /poll. And if I said, hold on, if I entered in chat, I can put in a question right now. And I will ask, are you enjoying yourselves? And you said I could put in different answers. And I would want actual useful information. I could put 10, 5, 10-ish as a response, 7-ish, 5-ish, 3-ish, 1-ish. Allow additional votes. And we're going to have this poll for a minute. Boom. And so I just put out a poll on Twitch, just like this. Your mods could probably learn how to do this. I don't even have a mod. But if you're like, oh, I am enjoying myself, and I don't exactly have 10 fields, so I just kind of, you can guesstimate how you're feeling. Boom, 10-ish. So that would be what we call quantitative data, is something that is in relation to numbers. Qualitative data is something in relation to opinions, subjective kind of things. And so I'm seeing a little bit of 7-ish. And so what I can do then is I can ask, for the person who voted 7-ish, how can I improve? How can I make this a better stream for you? What can I do to help you enjoy yourself more? So that then provides opinion. And that would be qualitative data. It's just as useful as quantitative data. And that's the kind of stuff you would find in like YouTube Studio, Twitch Streamer Dashboard Analytics. You can find it on stuff that you would actually see data with. And you'll find all these different metrics, all these different numbers and confusing looking graphs. That would be quantitative data. Now, when we're putting out a survey, we want more qualitative. And so trying to get more of that, of like, hey, what can I do to improve? And so I'm going to guess, hey, if one of the things I could do to improve is putting on a game for you to watch while you do something. Cool. Maybe that is something I could do. And if I were to do that a little more, maybe I could use my model a little more. I'm getting carried away and I'm just completely forgetting about the stream. And I'm just like talking and talking and talking. And that's okay. For me, I'm doing the thing I want to do, but I also want to consider who's sitting here and watching. I want to consider your time. And so if you want to give me feedback, you can. This is a judgment-free environment. If you want to DM it to me, you can. It's totally up to you. And so we're going to be doing a lot of the same things. And so like if you have a Google survey form, on Google Forms, you can ask your community on Discord. On YouTube, you can do community posts as well. That can be a good way to get qualitative feedback. If I were to ask something like, what games would you want me to play? If I were just to ask that right now, what games would y'all like me to play? Let's start with that. Go ahead and just say whatever's at the top of your mind. If I were to say something, Persona 4 Golden. Okay, so Persona 4 Golden, I will take that into consideration. If you want to see me play Persona 4 Golden, I probably have a lot to say about Persona. I like psychology a lot, and that could be something I play. I personally would want to play something else, but it is a consideration that's there. And so I would want to gather a lot of more feedback so that I have a list of games that people actually want to see. And so if Persona 4 Golden is one idea, okay, what if there's another one, like people want to see me play, I don't know, they want to see me play like Lies of P. They want to see me play Lords of the Fallen, Soulsborne type of stuff. That's another set of considerations I could have. And what do I do with that information? And so that is something you can do with experimentation. I was mentioning that a lot of actually experimenting. And so if you're gaming and you want to actually do that as a part of your branding, experimenting, especially early on, is not a bad idea. Haha, idle manager. I can work while I'm not working. Oh Lord. Working while I'm working sounds wonderful. It sounds absolutely wonderful. Oh boy. Yes, Idle Manager is definitely another game that I could possibly play. It's one-to-one with what I do. Probably could be a topic conversation starter. You know, I could break the ice a little bit like, oh yeah, fuck this way of doing things. I go through this shit a lot. And as I'm going through the game, that's something that could be relevant. And that could be one of those experimentations. And I could just keep trying it and trying it for a bit. Maybe a week of Idle Manager. If it doesn't work out, I'll move on to the next thing. And I just keep trying and trying and trying until I find something. Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom. That could be something I could stim to and talk about the stuff at the same time. So perhaps if I got myself another Elgato HD 60S Plus game capture card, because my girlfriend Yumiko is out there and the one that I had is being used by her. So if I got myself a second one, I could then hook up the Switch to it and I could play Tears of the Kingdom. And I imagine I could put up Tears of the Kingdom on the stream while talking about this exact sort of stuff. But right now, I didn't want to do that. I very well could. She's not... Wait, no, she is using the PS5 anyways. But let's just say she wasn't. I didn't want to do that today. I just wanted to... I had a lot to talk about. I've been talking for like almost 3 hours now. There was a lot I needed to get through, and I wanted to focus on this. I like the completionist mentality. It's really nice. So yeah, that's really a lot of things that comes to mind when it comes to gathering opinions. Angora! Hi! It's nice to see you, sweetie. Hi! Now, another thing that you could do while doing surveys would be like, so you can gather information about games. But if you have been doing it for a while, make a list of like a checklist of things for people to select in the survey. Like, what types of games would you want to see more of? And you can list stuff like Bomb Rush Cyberpunk, Valorant, Fortnite, Phasmophobia, Risk of Rain 2, I don't know, whatever. And it's like stuff you've already played, and you put that in the field just to kind of gauge what people have enjoyed so far. And then we want another question of like, what would they actually be interested in that isn't already done? And then what would they want to see more of? Stuff that you haven't played in a while. And then you can also ask about stuff like, Oh, thank you. I'm really glad you like this PNG design. I think everyone kind of likes what I have going on here. Um, so I was saying about surveys. Another thing I typically like having people do is also putting in like what non-gaming categories would you want to see. So that could be like just chatting streams that go through like tier lists, ASMR, podcast, VR chat, cooking, crafting, learning languages, art, karaoke. You know, the list is literally limitless. Think about ChatVT, where you're listing a bunch of hobbies and then you're seeing what actually sticks with you and resonates. So, that is definitely a question, and maybe that could resonate with your community. And for a lot of the questions I got earlier, it was like, well, I've been doing a lot and I don't have the right community. Well, maybe this is a way to gauge a new direction. And then you can ask further about that later. And so you can also ask a lot of the same things of like Discord. You can ask people, hey, do you actually look at the stream notifications? Do you actually enjoy the server that I have? Do you this and that and the other? And maybe even engage like, what would you like to see during Discord community night? There's a lot of things that you can do. And so from that basically would be like a really, really basic survey that you can have to move forward. And you can even start asking about other platforms. Like, what platforms do you find yourself using? Start to learn about your audience more. And as for how often to survey them, I would say once a quarter. Just about. That's every 3 months. So that's enough to really get like a real good pinpoint kind of feeling of where people are at, enough to see trends that people can actually speak about. And one of the benefits of me doing this stream right now actually is like when I do consultations or meetings as well, and there's a lot of frequently asked questions, I can now split these videos up, make a playlist on YouTube, and I can share that as a resource that I give to others. So if there's stuff that you yourself talk about a lot and there's questions that people ask of you a lot, or like misunderstandings or things that you don't like, that's also a boundary, maybe you could just make a video about it and then just kind of keep that video circulating, and maybe that can help that kind of situation. That's another thing. Be sure to assert your boundaries. That's a really big thing that I see a lot of people struggle with, and that could be all sorts of personal reasons, but it's really important to make sure that people are not running all over you and trying to dictate your content, not trying to take advantage of you. Stand up for yourself. It's okay. Be assertive. I'm open to answer any kind of questions that anyone has. As for more about what I wanted to cover, I did feedback. The model is here. I'll do telonyms if there's nothing else. That would be like the very last thing. I talked about... I didn't talk about Twitter, did I? So, very general, basic Twitter strategy. I talked about that pretty briefly at the beginning, but it bears repeating again. An easy way to deal with Twitter is to just start posting your thoughts in general. People will find you. If you just put your thoughts out there for folks to see, it could get recommended out. You can comment under different people's things. That's not usually a surefire way to actually gain followers. In fact, it can also, if you're too strong with that, you can be seen as clout chasing. And so, honestly, just kind of using Twitter as like a micro-blogging site where you're just kind of putting out your intrusive thoughts and things that you've been wanting to talk about. Kind of like what I was talking about with vlogging, but you're doing the same thing with Twitter. you're actually kind of putting your voice out in the wild. You can, if you're an artist, share fan art that you have. If you're a video editor, take on clients either for cheap or free and start doing showcases. Same thing with model artists. If you do rigging or the art or both, do some showcases and get people to share it. You start from somewhere, and just like any other, just like the Twitch advice and YouTube advice I gave, you just have to start somewhere. And it could be a very rough start for a while, but you just got to keep going with it. You can commission art and then share that art. That could be a way that you can grow. Posting videos is usually a good idea. And not all the videos are going to do well. Hell, most of them might not even do well. And maybe you have to go back to the drawing board and just analyze what you could do better. Get feedback again. A lot of social media is just that. The one thing that I would consider that's different would be Discord. No, Discord, I mean, let's be honest. We just kind of want to use Discord to hang out with people. A lot of VTubers have their own individual Discords. I know I do. I use it to host my business. It serves as a help forum as well, but I know that I could probably do better by separating that into its own server so that it's specifically used as a place to talk, hang out, and help people. And maybe that actually would be for the best. But for the most part, the majority of Discords are just there for people to hang out in and make friends with each other, or like just have people to play a game with. You don't need to make Discord super complicated and have like 1,000,001 text channels. Allowing people to opt out of what channels that they see is really good idea. So use the onboarding features that Discord has for your server. And also just size down and keep it real simple. You don't need 1,000,000 channels. You probably need like 20 at best. To, don't have like just a general chat and pile everything in there. I did that for a while and people hated it. It was serviceable, but for the most part, people did not like that. So having basic channels to separate different things to keep general chatter in does help the flow of talking with other people. You really don't need to overcomplicate Discord at the end of the day. If people actually like what they see, they will share your server with other people. Or it's something that you can advertise yourself. Like for me, for example, I'm just going to willy-nilly shill my Discord right now. And why would I do that? Well, because fuck you, that's why. But also, I have quite a lot of opportunities for people to meet other folks. It's not often used, but it is there. And so I have a pretty thorough onboarding feature that allows people to size down. And I'm completely okay with that. If most people don't use most of the channels, that's fine. For the most part, people are coming to my server because they paid for my services and they're talking in a private chat that I gave them. And that's all it needs to be for my thing. But if you want to go in there, ask for help in a help forum, that's someone will eventually get to you. And if not me, then someone else. And that's all it needs to be for me. And that's okay. Discord you should not feel pressured to have a Discord, to have community nights. Remember just the basics of what Discord is there for. Oh, you met Tonga Dan at TwitchCon. That's real cool because you and Coco really poked at him. I remember how Dan got really grilled when he first got to the server and when we got him to not use AI anymore. Good times. I wish more brands would get grilled in my server. Why don't we petition more brands to go into my server and then we just grill the fuck out of them into actually being like serviceable? Yeah, he just got wrecked. He got bodied. Delicious brand barbecue. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what we want. While I'm talking about something else, Angora, tell me how TwitchCon was for you. I never asked you. Curious. If anyone else went to TwitchCon, I really want to go. 2024 is going to be the year that I start going to conventions. I want to go to Offkai and TwitchCon at the very least. If I get to go to more, cool. But those are the two cons I really want to go with. I want to meet a lot of you. Like Angora, I want to meet Angora. I want to meet Eden. I want to meet Odyssey. I want to meet so many people. Yeah, TwitchCon's expensive. Offkai's expensive. I know. I want to go. Oh, Mix It Up was at TwitchCon. Oh, that's so nice. Honestly, artist alleys are quite the fucking blessing. Not gonna lie. Yes, Odyssey is literally one of my best friends, if not one of my closest best friends, and she is nice and kind. Always. That's just who she is. Okay, so seasonality. I want to talk about that. Seasonality is the concept of data changing based on the season. So right now we're heading into holiday season. And for streamers, this was something that I actually had one hell of a realization for. It was the idea that not everyone is in abusive households and are trying to get away from their families. It was the idea that there's actual normal, healthy households, and that would make up the majority. And that blew my mind because it was last year I was analyzing data for different people, and I know, right? And so I was wondering why a lot of people were seeing a lot of decreases in like everything, CCV, discoverability. Literally everything was down for Thanksgiving, for Christmas. It was a foreign concept to me, actually. I grew up in an abusive household, and I am surrounded by, for the most part, my entire life, by people who are the same as me, who grew up in abusive households and are survivors. And so for me, it's like I'm a fish breathing out of water, and it hit me like a fucking truck, and I'm sitting here like, okay, so I'm guessing that if you do have such an audience that is like normal-ish, I would say, you will definitely feel that seasonality like a fucking truck. Like yesterday for Halloween, people are going to be at parties. People are going to be doing, giving out candy, and they're not always going to be lurking even. They're going to close their phones and focus on the family around them and actually interact with their neighbors and stuff. And I'm like, oh my God, what? It's a thing. And then, well, people actually go to Thanksgiving. It's an actual thing. And Christmas, too. Christmas Eve, Christmas, the day after Christmas, especially if you're going to parties, you're getting hungover. You got to remember, hangovers are a thing. So not everyone's going to be there. They're going to be like, oh, fuck, I'm hungover. I'm just not going to do shit today. And they proceed to just do that. People have lives. And I'm like, oh my God, what a novel concept. I know, right? It's like like if you yourself are a survivor and then your partner has a healthy family, it's like, oh my God, wait, this is normal. Yeah, and then travel. That's another thing. And then I once had a client who worshipped Islam, And so they had to participate in Ramadan, and their audience participated in Ramadan. And so that happens like around May. And so the start of the summer hits them like a fucking truck. Ramadan is one of those things that that is, well, the definition of seasonality. It happens on a season. And so same thing would apply for college kids. For a lot of you in the audience, you know it very well. I went to college myself. You have midterms. You have accelerated courses, which also have different dates for midterms. You have finals as well. You have move-in. You have move-out times. And you have your breaks. And there's all sorts of things happening around you all the time. Lots of obligations. And so there's a lot of seasonality. And so one of the keys of seasonality is really understanding your audience. And unfortunately, there's no amount of preparing for seasonality, especially on the day of a holiday, for example, that you are definitely affected by. In my opinion, just take the day off. Enjoy the holiday yourself and just take the day off. If your audience, by and large, does celebrate the holiday, take the day off. Enjoy the day. Maybe you can catch up on some backlog of work, or if you want to be productive that day, every VTuber I know has a backlog of work. Maybe you can tackle that. Or if you just want the extra day off, enjoy it. What a novel concept. Angora did a fun little AFK Yule log last year on Christmas, and folks seemed to enjoy it. I remember that. I remember you doing that. It's actually really nice. If you can provide that kind of thing, like what Angora was saying, of like, you could take the risk and provide something anyways. And if people want to lurk the entire time and you're just kind of chilling and doing something, cool, do it. But do not be expected if do expect seasonality to be a factor. But also, I will say something that's rather controversial. Viva Lurkers. Like, Lurkers are the backbone of the streamer community. There's a lot of people who work. They're studying. They're doing all sorts of things. It's okay to keep your favorite streamer on the background. For me especially, I expect people to keep me on in the background and not engage. And yet people are engaging because I'm providing value and people want to respond to me. But with me just chatting with the PNG, I am expecting people to put me on audio only mode, put me in their pockets, and keep listening. I'm trying my best, improving from last time. This is actually an improvement I'm trying to do right now. I'm trying to avoid giving visual representations, especially because of the behaviors of most lurkers. I intend to explain things without needing you to look at it. So if I can do that as an educator, if I can just succinctly explain something very thoroughly, but yet understandably without needing a graph or something, I'm doing a goddamn good job. The graph can help, but it's not the point. And for me, with my ADHD and autism, I'm going to focus too much on the graph anyways, as I did in my last stream this summer. And so moving forward, I'm never going to do a graph ever again. Nor am I going to open up a browser tab. That's not what I'm here for anymore. I'm just going to just sit here and talk, give very straightforward advice, break it down, and that's it. Nice and simple. And I think the same thing can be applied to regular streamers who do gaming. Is like, if you are there and you're just having fun with someone and you bring yourself to the table and you start, if you want to talk about your experiences, you can do that. Or if you are, you're funny and you are actually going off at a game, like, you can provide entertainment value without needing the visuals. And if you're doing that, you're going to stand the fuck out from the rest of the crowd. That's why I really emphasize acting skills, improv, like actually getting good at that stuff will help you stand out from the crowd. Like there's a giant bell curve. And I think something like 95% of streamers never make it to affiliate. And that's what, 5 CCV. 95% never make it to affiliate. And then somewhere between 5 to 1% makes up the majority of the affiliates, and only 1% of streamers are partners, and then 0.01% would be the biggest partners there are. And then for the biggest who take up the overwhelming majority of traffic on Twitch, that would be 0.0001%. And so the overwhelming majority of people are kind of working with scraps. But like I said at the start of the stream, you can work past that, way past that. And if you are actually talented and or entertaining and you work on yourself, you work on your content and your skills, you will make that 1%. This is something I can guarantee. That's really nice of you, Aurora, to keep your friends on a different tab. Supporting the homies. Wow, I've covered the majority of my topics. I will say that, I did mention LGBT Talks. So that's something that I'm going to be doing with my girlfriend Yumi. We're going to be hosting a podcast specifically for anyone LGBTQIA+, to just come on to the show and just talk about their experiences. I want to either do this by the end of the year or in the new year. I think the new year is probably better because that'll give me time to get assets and get me time to actually promote it a little bit. And I have invited a good amount of people, and you know who you are. I will have guests on to talk about different things. And I think that'll be nice. I think it's needed for people to actually talk about gender and sexuality very openly. Podcast, yeah. I'm going back to my podcast days, yes. And I'm just I'm hoping to actually be able to talk about things in a very open environment. So, yeah, it will be rather touchy and controversial topics, but they're necessary topics to talk about seriously. Holy shit. I went through 19 topics in 3 hours. This was a 3-hour just chatting stream. And when I'm talking to a lot of clients, like virtually everyone, and I give them this advice about the post-it notes, I usually just say 5 to 10. I did 20. And as a result, well, the number 20 was telling him, but I haven't gotten a lot of specific questions from people on that. It's just been the auto-generated thing. I don't know how much you guys want to know about me personally just yet. Maybe we could save that for another time. But I'm open to other VTubing questions and even personal questions if you want to know more about me. But yeah, I've went through all my topics. I allocated 5 hours. I didn't know how long this was going to take, but I did good. Oh, you want me to hydrate? Oh. Okay. Oh, I spill water on myself. I'm all wet. Oh my god, it's everywhere. Hold on. I'm gonna get a towel. Oh god, what is she doing? Oh, I actually got that. Oh no, okay. I can't. Give me a moment. I need to change. change my fucking shirt. Okay. Alright. Tank top acquired. All is good. All is good. Y'all had one single bimbo moment this stream. I did good, okay? I went 3 hours without a bimbo moment. I think I deserve nuggies. I got myself a 50-piece nuggie bucket from Wendy's last night to celebrate my anniversary with my girlfriend Yumiko. She craves nuggies every day. So you know what? After stream, I'm gonna reward myself with nuggies. I had one bimbo moment. I saved it for the... What kind of nuggie sauce? I usually go with ranch. The darling usually goes for barbecue. And we actually have like a really good barbecue we get from like Buc-ee's. It's like this giant fucking gas station that also doubles as like a small supermarket. And they serve like fresh brisket and pulled pork and sausage, smoked sausage. Its mascot is literally a furry beaver. I call him Beaver Daddy. He's always looking up at the sky. And I'm like, what is he thinking? Is Buc-ee's the Beaver Daddy? Is he waiting for his time to dethrone God? He serves the best brisket. I'm waiting for him to dethrone God already. Yeah. So I guess for me, I have some questions for all of you then. I'm going to leave this a little bit of time to ask all of you questions and maybe just kind of babble to myself a little bit. How do you like the new model? How do you like the design? I've talked a lot about character design. What thoughts come to your mind about it? Pretty. I agree, it is pretty. See, when I was working with Iris with this one, I really liked Iris's style, and I was actually really excited to have a shoujo anime style, and like you can see it a bit with the lips. I very much grew up on shoujo. I started liking anime and manga when I was like 4 years old. I started off with Studio Ghibli, started off with Evangelion. That was very interesting. Of course, anything I could see on like Toonami and Adult Swim. I had pretty fucking good taste as a kid. But Clamp manga was like number one for me. I read whatever I could get. Feliz Jueves! Feliz Jueves! Oh, the snake motif. Okay, hold on. I'm gonna zoom out a little bit so you can see the legs as well. Yeah, I am legless, but this is all I have. Boom. So, I'll get back to my childhood in a little bit. It is not Jueves, but Evangelion was mentioned. I agree. So with the snake, I wanted to have Tessa be a harvest goddess. I really like Harvest Moon, but also I think about what I actually do with my job, and I'm like, well, I really want to see, I really care about the environment as well. And so for me, I thought, you know what? I crave for simplicity. I actually help people grow as people and I help their brands grow. And so I'm like, oh, what if I just went with Harvest Goddess? And I'm like, well, I like Harvest Moon, but I don't exactly want to go in that direction per se. I wanted to go more in the direction of my heritage. I wanted to go more in a Mexican direction, but also within my family is Aztec lineage, like as far as like my great grandmother kind of deal. Like it's very, very close. I believe if I went down and found, like, if I actually looked around, like, got back in contact with my relatives, maybe I could ask some answers. I do have relatives in Spain too, but I do have Aztec in my lineage, and it's not too far removed. And so I'm like, I do actually love mythology, and I do like Aztec mythology as well. I think a lot of it is really beautiful. And for me, I went with Chikomokoto. She is there's technically two harvest goddesses. They focus on corn, maize, because that's a really big crop for Mexico. Um, and so with Chikomokoto, she also has a bunch of snakes around her, and in mythology for her, Chikamakoto is she has like seven serpents around her, but overall the serpents they represent something close to Ouroboros. And so I'm like, I actually do like Viking mythology as well. So what if I just simplified it to Ouroboros? And I'm like, wait a second. What if I went with like a 1980s, 1990s style of ears to have a more like fluffy snake? And that's how I got the ears. I was also inspired by Klonoa for the ears. Um, but with the colors, I was inspired to make the harvest goddess represent crops. So the hair is green and yellow to represent corn, for example. And I wanted to harken back to Chikamakoto, who whose main symbol was for corn and snakes. And so I with snakes with like Ouroboros, it's a cycle of life and death, all one cycle. And for harvest, you're gonna have times where things die, things and just cycles in general. And so that's what I really wanted to go with. And so with this specific one that I worked with Iris on, instead of going for gold, I went with like platinum and silver. Well, it's more silver than platinum. So I went with silver, which is a native metal to Mexico as well. There's other ones, but I wanted to go with silver to match with the color scheme. And we wanted to go with black and whites for the neutral base, but also with the purples that you see around with both the lingerie and the corset. I wanted to represent my favorite flower, lilacs. Lilacs have a lot of properties to them that are really healthy, and so I also just love the way lilacs look, and so I wanted to incorporate just anything natural that you could have in nature, incorporated into my design. Exactly, the green and purple contrast nicely, and with the previous design I had, it was a bit too much, and I personally it had a lot of whites and blacks, and so I wanted to have it to be a little more colorful too. And so that's why I went with the purple with all this, because there's a lot of green and it's a nice complementary color. And so when I went into this, I worked with Iris and pointed out, I literally went to like Canva because they have a color picker. And I thought about color psychology and color theory as well. So I made sure to look at colors that actually worked together, but also had actual symbology to it to myself. And thus, that's how the design is. Also, the way the dress is, I wanted to keep something a little more businessy, but also a little sexy, but also something practical. And so I also wanted something a little closer to solar punk as well this time around. And so we imagine that this is something that we could honestly see people wearing in a solar punk society. And that's the design. And also why I chose this hair in the first place, I just thought it looked really good. This one is definitely Genshin inspired. Okay, so I had a little bit of time that I was talking a little bit about my childhood a little bit. I got into manga quite early on, anime and manga quite early on. Never stopped. I talked a little bit at the start about how I started going to conventions when I was in high school, but I was already writing articles before I even went to conventions. So as soon as I was like 14 years old, I started reviewing anime. I had already watched so much anime, read so much manga, and I've loved anime since, I mean, as long as I can remember. And it's really central to me, and I love it a lot. And that's why I work with VTubers. Yeah, overall, that's why I wanted a more shoujo inspired design this time around, too. I also just don't see a lot of shoujo inspired designs in the VTuber community. So just wanted to break the mold a little bit with that to share my love with it. Well, if there's no other questions, I think I'm going to be ending the stream a little bit early. And just as a heads up, I'm going to on Tuesday at 3 p.m. EST. Every Tuesday, 3 p.m. EST, I'll be streaming for about 3 to 4 hours, answering any questions, talking about different topics. Yes, Nuggy snack time. And so, I am going to be rating my girlfriend, actually. Oh, thank you. Again, if anyone has any questions, you can DM me on Twitter or Discord. I dropped my link earlier. But yes, thank you for showing up today. And I hope you have a good time with Yumiko's stream. Be sure to say hi. All right. I'll see you guys next week. Bye-bye.